Hey, this is Garrett Ziegler. I'm a licensed private investigator and the founder of a 501c3 called Marco Polo. We wrote the book on the Biden laptop, one of the greatest scandals of the 21st century. And a lot of people have requested that I go through the Glaze fest that was the discussion between Hunter Biden and Tucker Carlson, who were old contacts in D.C. They lived very close to one another. Their wives were actually closer than they were, Kathleen Buell and Susie Carlson. I gave a quote to the New York Post yesterday that on a periphery scan, I watched this at 1.75 speed. That's the only way I can take it. And we're going to watch this at 1.25 speed because it's just so unbearable. I scanned about 100 false statements / lies because there are gradations to untruthfulness. If you truly believe something in your mind, but it's still false, that's a false statement. That's not technically a lie. A lie is knowing mendacity. There are both in this. And I'm going to be fair to Hunter, and I'm the 4.5 minute stretch that is useful to the world out of this 2-hour discussion. Again, I'm not calling it an interview. It's really not an interview. Tucker calls it an interview here. He says the Hunter Biden interview, and the caption, that's what's on YouTube. I downloaded this from his YouTube channel. It's really not an interview. This is a kumbaya. This is a partnership for clicks and attention, the animating principle of which is the now disdain that Tucker has for Donald Trump. And Hunter's going to get to that in the first couple minutes. So on my screen here is our world-famous book, Report on the Biden Laptop, which you can go read and download for free. You can download this exact PDF version for free at bidenreport.com. Just making sure everything's going well here. I have the rough transcript taken from Tucker's website. So there'll be mistakes in this. This is AI generated, but it's still good to have a transcript in certain areas. And I have the discussion ahead of me. And I have, because I'm old-fashioned in this regard, a pen and a pad, and I will, in true PI fashion, be making notes of each lie and or false statement. And I will delineate, and there'll be a lot of pausing in this. So that's why it'll be longer than 2 hours, but I will take breaks, and I hope, and I'll go through all the ads, so the discussion will be less than 2 hours because Tucker has his products he's got to shill for. And I'll talk about so many topics, and what I'll do is, in these discussions of lies and false statements, some of them can be refuted with hard evidence, which is in our book. I would argue a lot of them can be. But when you're going about your day, sometimes you can't refute somebody with that hard evidence. That's what makes these lies and false statements by Hunter so egregious, because we have the data out there. Sometimes when somebody's bullshitting you, you can't disprove it right away. You can disprove it through speech, but there's not some third-party artifact that's able to disprove it in the moment. That's what we're going to do. That's the hardest thing to do, and that's what I'm interested in. And that's why Hunter sued us, failed. His sugar brother sued us and failed, because unlike anybody else on the right, left, or center, we only care about verifiable truth. The goal in this discussion from their part is entertainment and clicks. If truth happens to sneak its way in, they don't begrudge that, but that's not their number one allegiance. And I'll explain how you can see that going through it. So I'm putting this at 1.25 speed. We're going to skip through the ads and everything else. You'll see the faux, outdoorsy thing with the antlers and the music at the beginning. It's cosplaying as a Wrangler, basically. They're up in Maine. The setting is up in Maine. I think they shot this a week ago Tuesday, so that would have been August 4th, I believe, is when this is taped, and it came out on a Monday. So they don't do much live. I'm recording this, as you can see, 3:15 on August 13th. Hunter would not do this live. He's not built for it. So everything is, very, very produced. As you can see, I'm in my home office here, very little production. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm not bemoaning that. I'm just saying Hunter wouldn't do this live. So let's get through this first chunk here.
Hunter Biden, thank you for doing this.
Dr. Carlson.
I haven't seen you in 11 years. Though I've talked about you, as you know.
In the meantime.
Yeah. And then I wake up one morning and you're doing Candace Owens.
I love Candace.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's just pathetic.
I do too. I've taken a lot of abuse for saying that, but I know her and I think she's a great person.
As a person, forget the politics and anything, and largely why I'm sitting here. We've known each other for, quite tangentially for 30 years.
Yes.
Is that she, as a human being, is a really, really good person.
By the way, Hunter has spent more time with Tucker and Candace than he has his own daughter. When you're going through this and he's name dropping all these people, remember, he's never met his daughter in person in Arkansas. Tucker never brings this up. All of the Glaze Fest discussions never bring this up. It's absolutely pathetic. We're dealing with a man-child who won't go meet his progeny. It's just unbelievable.
And thoughtful and generous and has a deep faith. And
he spent a couple of hours with her, if that, in her home. He has no ability. He's not well read. He doesn't dive into things. He has no grounding to say any of this. If I were it's pathetic that Candace had him on. We could talk to anybody, and we should talk to anybody. But that too was a Glaze Fest. That wasn't a search for the truth. The fact that she allowed her children to be around this dopehead is unbelievable.
I just vehemently disagree with some of her positions. And it used to be that way.
I remember.
Remember? I mean, when you and I knew each other, it wasn't as if our politics were much different.
Right.
And but everything has...
You just noticed that? It wasn't as if our politics were much different. Yeah, they both came from the swamp. They both traded on access in different ways. They both were total swamp critters for over a decade. Living in near Kalorama and that type of ouvroir, it's disgusting. It's repulsive to middle American people like us and just people who don't want to be by a degenerate imperial capital.
Everything changed. And I attribute it to one thing. We can get to that, but...
What's the one thing?
To Donald Trump. Everybody says, he's a symptom of the disease.
Within the first minute.
The reality is that I think he's one of the most transformational individuals in our political history for ill. And
notice Hunter won't go on anybody's program that doesn't bash Trump. So he'll say multiple times throughout this interview, all the questions are on the table. You can ask me anything. I want it. I'm the most transparent person anywhere. It's complete bullshit. He'll only go on people who bash Trump, and a large majority of his time on any of these discussions, hardly any of them are interviews, is bashing Donald Trump. So it's sophistry. It's saying, here, I'm an open book, come examine me, sort of like that psalm that says, Lord, search me and know my thoughts and see if there's any wicked way in me and lead me into the way everlasting. He's using a sophistry tactic to make you believe that that's what he's doing. But really, it's just commiserating about Trump and bitching about him.
I think he had such an opportunity to do great things, and he just decided that all he was going to do was for himself. And but anyway, regardless, we got 2 hours to talk.
We're from the same place.
Yeah.
I grew up with your high school girlfriend, I think.
They're talking about Sissy Dent. Sissy Dent is a minor socialite from the Greenville, Delaware area. I don't know if Hunter took her virginity. Would not surprise me if that's the case. Hunter went to Archmere. I don't know where Sissy went, but Tucker went to Tony High Schools on the East Coast and a Trinity College. I think it's in Connecticut. And Sissy Dent did as well. I think she's DuPont heir. It's all disgusting and incestuous. In the case of the DuPonts, it's literally incestuous.
So, I mean, I'm very familiar with the world that you're from.
That's true. Tucker didn't lie there. He's very familiar with it, which is East Coast elitism. And now he's wearing flannel shirts and has a cabin.
From it too. And I noticed the change during Obama. And I'm not blaming Obama. I'm not blaming but the society changed. It was like all of a sudden if you didn't like Obama, you were a racist.
Yeah.
And I felt like in our neighborhood, that was the advice. You couldn't say anything about Obama that wasn't positive.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, I mean, and I think that I had a completely, probably different perspective on that. But I don't discount if you say that you felt that way.
Well, it was before then. Like if it was.
Look at Hunter's just glossing over of a key disagreement. He doesn't want to hash out what the truth of the matter is. He just says, I know you feel that way. Right? I mean, this is just, it's even less than Maury. We called the Bidens the Jerry Springer first family. At least on Jerry Springer, they duke things out. This is just meaningless parlor talk for the first couple minutes.
Clinton, I knew a lot of Clinton staffers, and you could be like,
Hunter was a Clinton staffer.
Really, Monica Lewinsky? And they'd be like, yeah, Monica Lewinsky or Bush, really the Iraq War? Yeah, the Iraq, it was like, but people seem to lose their sense of humor in 2008. I remember, at least my neighbors did. It was like, did you say something about Obama that's not flattering? And that to me,
I can see how you would get that. You know what I mean? I mean, you're a public figure. You're on TV.
I mean, at like dinner.
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean,
and it was the ladies who were all about Obama. Remember that? It's like all this whole thing of like well-educated, humorless, rich white ladies.
That's probably the truest thing Tucker said in the whole interview. We see that borne out in our daily lives. This insufferable shit-lib women who don't live according to their own pronouncements.
Began during
that may be the case. That wasn't. It understandably was not my experience.
That it wasn't.
And
so, how did you wind up deciding to speak in public? And first of all, with Candace, which I strongly approve of, but I just like, how did that happen?
Strongly approve of. Again, we can go on anybody's show. I'll go on anybody's program. The difference between me saying that and Hunter is that I actually will. He'll only go into places that will have him bitch about Donald Trump and join him in his bitching about Donald Trump. Anywhere else he won't go. He won't go around me. He won't go around Miranda Devine, Rudy, anybody who's going to actually ask him tough questions and know the material. Tucker's just flying blind. We've sent the book to him. I'll play a voicemail later on in the program where one of his bookers and or producers leaves me a voicemail and says, Tucker wants to have you on for an interview in March of 2024. It's just unbelievable.
The first interview that I did was with Andrew Callahan, and who is a brilliant, in my opinion, journalist. And
at least he put in his opinion. Callahan is not a journalist. He's a pimply-faced schmuck. You can make a good argument that he's a documentarian. He's just carrying around a camera. But he knows nothing about investigations. These people are dog shit investigators. Okay? They don't even have the mental dexterity to realize what I was talking about earlier with gradations of truth, the difference between a lie and a false statement. You won't find any of that sort of discussion on that pimply-faced schmuck's Channel 5.
Documentarian. And I didn't know anything about him, but I had a lawyer that had done some work for.
Talking about Brian Sullivan and or Kevin Morris, for those who want to know the people behind their generalities. They won't name these people. I will. You will only get that type of insider info on Marco Polo. That's why you're following
him. That had also done some work for me, and he said, "Hey, you should check this guy out." And I did. And what I noticed about Andrew is that I believe he has a real finger on the pulse of what's happening, particularly to a certain demographic, like draft age, 18 to 35-year-olds. And he has a wider audience also. And
it's funny that you say draft age. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, we may.
That's not really that interesting. It's a common phrase. Everyone knows that the draft cuts off at a certain age. That's what the whole point is, trying to be draft. Dodgers either too old or you're waiting it out. You want to be, get school credits until you reach that upper bound age.
We may be coming up to, anyway.
Do you think we're going to get a draft?
No. I don't think that.
One of the few things I agree with Hunter on, it's just preposterous.
They have the, I don't think.
Because that's when I physically joined the protest at that. I mean, that's so crazy.
Well, I think you should physically join the protest now. I mean, you're already there.
See? That's why he's there. You're already there, Hunter. Hunter's been there for years, but Hunter's now saying to Tucker, you're already here, which is the bitch fest about Trump. And there are so many valid criticisms of what Trump's sons are doing, and we can get into all of that with sobriety and probing questions.
And but anyway, I met with I
the first lie is going to be up here. So we made it almost not even 5 minutes. It's going to be the first huge lie.
A lot of stuff that Andrew did, I I really liked it, and I went on, and I think that the thing that kind of shocked people was my willingness to be completely open about all of about everything.
It was not completely open about all of it. That is the first verifiable lie. Didn't talk about his child in Arkansas. Didn't talk about non-consensual pornography. Didn't talk about FAR violations. So, one.
I don't. I welcome any question.
No, he doesn't. That's the second lie. He doesn't welcome any question. He almost cried in the deposition with me. There were many questions that weren't addressed here, and he won't go on any program. Miranda Devine has invited him multiple times to sit down with him. He won't do it. So 5 minutes in, already 2. So if you break that down in the first hour, you're going to see 40 to 50 lies if you spread it out.
I always say that addiction is never an excuse, but it's often an explanation for some of the things that...
It's one of the only, kind of trite, quippy things that he's always said. And he is offering it as an excuse. His statement isn't necessarily wrong if somebody else uses it, but Hunter always uses it as an excuse.
People, the narrative that they've been told about me.
They've been told about me.
They did a beautiful thing to me that was ugly in the moment, which was they completely exposed me in a way that I don't know of any public figure or person associated with a public figure, particularly family, has ever been exposed. They literally stole.
Okay, there's the third lie. Third lie. They literally stole. There's absolutely no evidence for that. And so not only does he know it's a lie because he's been through discovery introduced to the evidence refuting it, but sometimes a lie sits right here and the complete opposite of the statement isn't true. It's just true that this statement is a lie. I feel like I'm going through LSAT prep again. But basically, the exact opposite is the truth in this lie. Not only was it not stolen, it was verifiably abandoned property based on the Delaware statute of abandoned property, which requires a year. So he drops it off April 12th, 2019. A year would have been April 12th, 2020. He was notified multiple times, calls, an email, which is in our report. It was used as Government Exhibit 40 in 23 Criminal Case 61 in the District of Delaware with Mary Ellen Noreika in his gun case. They put the godforsaken Square invoicing receipt that rhbdc@icloud.com received. So we're already 3 lies in.
22 years.
22 years is another lie. He's just been saying that. There's no evidence whatsoever for that, and quite the opposite. The emails begin, as far as we can tell, and you can go on our site, BidenLaptopEmails.com. Go on our site. I'm very proud of this site. You can search all 128,000 emails, and they start where? 2009. And they go to when? Go to the oldest, let's go to the newest, 2009. So at the very most, some of the photos in the iPhone backup date to 2008. So at the very most, there's 12 years. So that's lie number 4. Right? So we're counting the lies and false statements. That's both, actually. So we're just going to count 4. We'll be fair to Hunter. 4 in. By the way, this is a rundown on our group. If you're interested, I would highly recommend going through this PDF version and get physical copies as well. Sold 25,000 paperbacks.
Of my entire digital footprint from every deleted image.
That's false statement number 5. There wasn't everything. It was a snapshot. So the emails, just like in my Apple Mail app here, were only for certain accounts. They don't have every email Hunter sent. He deleted a lot of them. In fact, there's a portion around his getting kicked out of the Navy for cocaine, which Hunter doesn't really bring up, or which Tucker doesn't really bring up here, which is pathetic, that he deleted a lot of emails. So it wasn't everything. Right, so that's the 5th lie.
To every deleted text.
There wasn't every deleted text. 6th lie.
Everything, and in that total exposure, there was nowhere to hide, and for me, I realized is that the only way to out was through, is owning the things that were true and speaking truth to the things that were false, And
He's never owned the things that are true. That's lie number 7, false statement number 7. What is true that Hunter never talks about? He acted as an unregistered agent for multiple foreign principals over a decade-long period. The number that we landed on in our dossier was 459 legal violations. 459. On page 51, there's the business-related crime section. These are all the statutes that he violated in chronological order in the district in which they were committed with the accomplices. Look, there is no other granularity like this on planet Earth. I spent 18 months in this home office here going through all this. There is nothing like this on planet Earth. And we have a $1,000 bounty for any material error that someone can find. I went through all 128,000 emails, and we put those online before this dossier was even released. This has been an exhibit in multiple civil and criminal trials. Not a single person has refuted a material fact that we've established in this. Think about that. And it was released October 19th, 2022. So we're 7 lies in.
And I did that with Andrew, and I thought it would just be a one-off. But then a guy named you're close with him, and I consider him a friend by text. I don't want to sully his reputation.
Yeah. His reputation has already been sullied for any truth seeker. He's an entertainment guy. He's talking about Sean Palmisano, who goes by Sean Ryan, which is his middle name, and he misspelled. He mixes up. He's changed the spelling of his first name, so his real name, his full real name is Sean Ryan Palmisano, but he switches up the spelling of Sean for his brand. Again, these are actors, essentially. They're entertainers. And again, if you're an entertainer like that Matt Fried guy, there's a Jewish comedian that I really appreciate. I think he's really good, and he does impressions. But he doesn't pretend to offer political analysis. He's a bread and circus guy, and he knows that. Right? So when you go on his Instagram page, you'll find impressions of people that he's doing because he's a comedian. What Tucker and now Sean Ryan have to own is that they are entertainers. They're not truth seekers. This has established that. There are 7 opportunities for Tucker to correct lies in the first 6.5 minutes. We're averaging, by the way, a lie a minute. It won't go this long because he'll talk about other things he's not lying about. But we're averaging right now we're on a current pace to have a lie or a false statement per minute with Hunter.
Is Sean Ryan, and I sat down with Sean Ryan,
amazing man. That's what Tucker thinks about him. No, he's a con artist. I sent him a copy of our dossier. His wife is his lead producer. Signed for it. Made her sign for it so we know she got it. And he's never called me back. These are entertainers. They're not interested in the truth. Whatever else you can say, they're not interested in the truth.
Sean is kind of, MAGA adjacent. He was between 2020 and 2024, and he had said some pretty rough things about my dad. Not so much about me,
rough.
But
dude, your dad was the U.S. president, got there through fraudulent means, and you're worried about language. It comes with the freaking territory. You're one of 46 men to ever be in the office, and you're talking about rough language. It's like that back when Trump was more hard-hitting and younger, he said, Jeb was concerned about my language. My language was a little bit rough. What a bitch. Get over it. That's such female talk.
About my dad that I vehemently disagreed with, and to this day vehemently disagree with. But I thought that Sean was a great listener, and I really appreciated his willingness
to not correct me in my lies. Hunter got to spew BS for multiple hours. I think 5 hours. I did an 8-hour sit down. I did an 8-hour lie correction video, just like this video, on that. And I can link it in the description.
To not allow what he had been instructed to believe to infect the way in which he listened. And I sat down with him, and we did close to 6 hours. And you kind of, I know that it's like, seems like this is a very public thing by virtue of everybody watching here. But the fact of the matter is these experiences in this long format.
Thanks to my wife for the
very
great coffee.
Intimate.
Oh, big time.
And that was my experience with Sean. And we connected on the thing that I have been able to connect with almost everyone, like universally, which is addiction.
Yes.
In recovery. And for me, thank God, it's recovery.
So one of the things that nobody talks about, and again, nobody asks about this, but this is a quote from Joe, and he talks about addiction, and I do think there's a genetic predisposition to being addicted, but addiction is not a disease that you have no control over. That's Hunter's going to use that language all the time. It's been bullshit all the time. There is a genetic predisposition, but people have genetic predispositions to a lot of things. You could even convince me that there's a genetic predisposition to homosexuality. It doesn't mean it's moral at all, right? I'm just saying for the purposes of argument. Joe told him in June of 2018 that he, quote, got the disease. So Joe's even trafficking in this bullshit fallacy about it being a disease from Mommy and me. Now, Mommy is what he calls Nelia. So apparently nobody's asked Hunter, was your mother a drunk or a drug addict? I mean, these are fair questions. She's been gone for decades. Hunter just got done telling us at the beginning, we know it's bullshit, that he's open to anything. So as an investigator, let's pull at that string. That's not what Tucker's about, though.
And I've been sober, clean sober for, and somebody said, stop saying clean. So I've been substance free and sober for over 7 years now. And I don't think people knew that. I think people conflated my past addiction with my father's presidency and just assumed that I was still using because,
That's technically a false statement because Hunter is a big user of the vape pen and smoking. Now, if he said illegal substances, that wouldn't be a false statement. Right? Because we have no evidence to contradict what he's saying that he hasn't been free of illegal substances. I do think he's been free of crack cocaine for that long, but he's not been substance free. Right? I have terrible allergies. I'm not technically substance free because I take a Zyrtec every day, or my eyes would swell shut. Right? So I'm not calling that a lie, but I am calling that a false statement. We're up to 8 in minute 8.
I mean, the New York Post, I think they printed 1.5 articles about me a day for almost close to 4 years, and none of it good, and all of it with
1 point. Okay, so we need to do some math on that. I'm not going to count that as number 9, but I will make a note of it. What that means is how many days are in 4 years? Around over 700. So that means like 1,600 articles. There's got to be an AI or some audience viewer who can see if there's really been 1,600 articles because he's saying on average. So I won't count that as number 9 yet, but it could be based on further research.
Not positive?
Not much of it was positive. No, not at all. Anyway, long story a lot longer is that
I'm having that experience with the New York Post at the moment.
Yeah, by the way. welcome to my world.
Well, I'm not naked, but
yeah, hopefully
that's the first funny thing that Tucker said.
Yeah, hopefully naked pictures don't come out. I could call some of our friends.
No one wants to see those.
Yeah.
Maybe Sissy didn't.
Well, I didn't think so either, but apparently they do. So anyway, long story short, and long story longer, I go and I did this with Sean, and Sean called, and this is public now. I can say it. Is Sean had dinner with Candace. They live in the same neighborhood down.
That's false statement number 9. They don't live in the same neighborhood. I know where both of them live. They do both live in the Nashville area, but Sean is down closer to Leapers Fork and Brentwood and Franklin, whereas Candace is actually in the city limits of Nashville. False statement number 9.
They're in Nashville. And he said, I really, really like her, and she told my wife that one of the interviews that she most wanted to do was with me, with Hunter Biden.
Again, it wasn't an interview. It was really a discussion. And the fact that Candace told Melissa Cohen, who came up to me, spat in my face, and called me a Nazi is just pathetic.
I'm not referring to myself in the third person. Right? I haven't gotten to that point yet. And, I thought about it. And like you...
I can't listen to this. I got to go quicker, guys, because it's just so... There we go. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to 1.5.
And we've talked about this a little bit, but like you, Candace has said some really, really awful things, not just about me, but also about my dad. The whole Biden crime family thing, but really, really kind of pointed things.
Pointed things. Yeah, like there was a conspiracy, essentially, to keep you away from your underage niece. Your sister-in-law accused you of being sexually inappropriate with her. Your father didn't do anything about it. Everybody knew. Multiple mandated reporters knew. Keith Abloh, Carly Dolan, Ashley Biden, Jill Biden, all mandated reporters knew of the allegations that her mother, Natalie's mother, Hallie Olivier, didn't want you around her 14-year-old daughter, and you were still around her.
And I believe that
And Candace talked about this. Candace's screenshot is in our book. What will I do? I will type in diary. Let's go to the diary section. Here it is. Let's keep going. There it is. November 5th, 2021. This is after Joe was installed. Candace Owens. Look at this. More importantly, why did we include this? Because it's true. More importantly, Ashley Biden is the second person in the Biden family that has made incestuous sexual allegations. Do not forget about Hunter's laptop and the text messages about his niece. These are accounts directly from the Biden family, not conspiracies. And guess what? We saved the tweet. We archived it. So this was back when she was interested in the truth. You know, I'm actually interested in whether or not she has deleted this. No, she hasn't, to her credit. I just saved it.
if I could sit down with her, not to convince her of anything, but to see that I was just as human as she was. And that I
of course they're just as human. That's a liberal shitlib talking point cop-out. We're all human. Yeah, duh. You're not a literal baboon. That's not saying anything.
Incredibly transparent about them. I have, and
you have not been incredibly transparent. Look at this. And I believe I could sit down with her, not a commission, but
I thought that
I won't call that a false statement just yet because he hasn't said enough, but there'll be one coming.
Could find that commonality, that we could have an actual conversation, and that's what occurred. And I don't agree with Candace still on a lot of stuff. And I almost feel like why do I have to make that caveat as it relates to it? Because I never used to have to make that caveat. Going all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, how did it change? I truly believe that the level of vitriol, meanness, and cruelty in our politics has always been there, but never like this. Never in a way in which it is practiced with impunity. And that to me has, I think that I can mark it. Now, it's interesting that you say that your experience is that kind of division started in 2008, but nothing like this, Tucker.
A lot of people hit that afternoon slump and immediately reach for another cup of coffee. Guilty! But is the answer always more caffeine? Well, sometimes.
I can't. I'm zooming through this, guys. I have coffee. There's nothing negative about it in moderation. I don't even have it in moderation. I'm not worried. I don't smoke. I have a glass of wine every quarter, maybe at dinner. That's about it.
Get it, and you should.
Nothing like
and
right
it's
now.
not even on partisan lines. I mean, the divisions are so intense. I always thought of divisions as racial or religious.
Of course, they're racial
Protestant marrying
and
a Catholic, or
divisions.
Black person marrying a white person.
Race is real. This is just filler talk, right?
I feel like the divisions now are ideological and political. And that's, this morning I texted Erica Kirk and Candace Owens, both within like an hour of each other, not related to each other, but just because I really like them both. And I'm not embarrassed of that. And that's my right, by the way. I get to like people whether or not I'm fully aligned with their program, right? Yeah. That's my view.
Yeah. Their program.
How
about we just pursue truth? And then we don't have to deal with any of this. If somebody says something true, we acknowledge it as such. If they don't, we say, you're wrong in this regard. Correct it and repent.
So much abuse for that. It's like, how could you be friends with two people?
Meaning, the Ten Commandments and the Christian truths have dealt with all this already. But both of them are so weak theologically. Hunter called God a figment of the imagination of the collective frightened. Let's search that. There it is. He's talking to George Masiris. That's what he thinks of God. This is right after he used the N-word and used what was one of the funnier things in the laptop. He said that his lawyer was charging him Hennessy rates, which on Urban Dictionary says when a gangster thug charges someone exorbitant rates so they can bathe their bitches in Hennessy. He said that God loves you. This is what George is Masiris, who's going to come up in this. Lawyer friend from Syracuse Law, where he met Bo. A few weeks later, on New Year's Day 2019, Hunter used the term in a statement describing his atheism. N-word, did you just use a fictional character, God, from the imagination of the collective frightened, and my dad's brother's unconditional love is what I should rely on, and my kids aren't children, George?
Disagree with each other? Well, I don't know. I am.
Well, they were.
Right.
He had a child at this. He had a 4-month-old infant down in Arkansas that he's never seen.
What world do we live in?
Well, that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
That's strongly how I feel.
Yeah.
First of all, I decide who I like. You don't get to decide who I like.
Yeah.
Don't you feel that?
I do, and I think that what it is it's a reflection of this: is that who are you getting that from? You're getting that from other people with niche audiences with big microphones in front of them. You're getting that from the comment section that I know you don't read,
No.
but other people in your organization read from on X. You're getting that. I think we have literally been torn apart on purpose. Because not because it was I don't think that the people that created the social media platforms that rule our lives to this day thought this is what we're going to do. We're going to create something just to tear people apart. What I think that they did was they created a monster in which they realized that it is fueled by division and vitriol and conflict and making you question yourself. I mean, let me give you an example. Remember that the whistleblower for Facebook, when I think Facebook was still Facebook, it happened like in 2022. She was a senior executive at Facebook, and she came up to the Hill, and this is a nonpartisan thing, and she came up to the Hill, and she had all of that documentation of internal studies within Facebook that showed that that there had been something like, and I forget the numbers, so don't hold me to it, but an exponential increase in the number of teenage suicides among girls between the ages of 13 and 17 years.
Again, the recounting of what the whistleblower said is largely true. Whether or not what the whistleblower said is true is up for debate. I'm just saying he, to a Hunter degree, accurately described this. So, but again, Hunter has no authority to speak on these matters. The only thing that he could ever teach us is some of the physiological effects that come from crack cocaine and other similar addictions like alcoholism. And he'll get to that. There's about 5 minutes of this 2 hours that is worth it.
So exponential. That began with the inception of Instagram. And then not only an exponential increase in actual suicides among teenage girls, but an even greater increase. Like if suicides went up triple, girls reporting self-harm went up by like 300% over the course of the inception of Instagram until 2022, when this woman walks in with all the document. And Instagram knew that, and knew that it was literally directly related to their algorithm, sending these messages to girls that they are not worth, that they need more, that they're.
Look at his concern about girls, young girls. His daughter is going to turn 8 in 2 weeks. August 28th, and he's never seen her. So he's more concerned about anonymous American girls than his own daughter.
Whether it's about their bodies or body shaming, and continuing to send it over to them, knowing the negative impact that is having. But it's because it made them money. It's because you become addicted to that, response and that Instagram would get with that bag of heroin in your pocket known as an iPhone. And you know what they did? Nothing. They buried the report. They literally did nothing. I mean, nothing. So my question, and then what happened? This woman, whistleblower, comes forward. She brings all of the evidence that Facebook Meta knows about this. And she said, now what do we do about it? And you know what Congress did? Senate, House? No. You know what they did? Nothing. We have done absolutely
Well, it's just
nothing.
suicides of our people. I mean, not a big deal.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Bonkers. I couldn't agree
And
more.
as it relates to our politics, it's the same thing. We are being fed the equivalent of a suicide pact by organizations and companies that are run by the way, literally a handful of very, 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 not just generationally, but wealthy people
Almost all of the people that he's supposedly, purportedly putting this on gave a shit ton of money to his father. He's talking about Meta. Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most disgusting rodents in the United States of America, who should be deported, gave $400 million so this guy's decrepit, early onset dementia father could be put into the Oval.
Degree that we haven't seen since the robber barons at the turn of the in 1900s and late 1800s. And those people, I'm not saying are evil, but what they have created is a tool. And a tool can be either a hammer can build a home, or it can tear down a...
He doesn't use the same analogy with regard to guns. His lawyer's other client, Matthew McConaughey, Kevin Morris, the sugar brother who's given him millions of dollars. Matthew McConaughey got up at the White House podium and said that we need gun control. Same argument can be made with regard to the hammer. And I don't disagree with the hammer argument. I'm just saying the hypocrisy is disgusting.
Your house. And they build a tool, and they make more money by tearing people down. They make more money by dividing people. They make more money, and so they just let the algorithm roll. and it's tearing us apart. And I'm not saying that's the only problem. Not myopic enough to say that all of the issues that we have. But going back to
Donald Trump.
Because for me, the one existential threat that I think that we face as a country is Donald Trump. I am not this believer that Trump is merely the symptom of a disease. I believe that Trump is central to why this disease has gone from a local epidemic to a pandemic. In the United States of America.
Look at the degree to which the crack has fried his synapses. I remember when Hunter's bullshit law firm, Winston Strawn, launched a ridiculous lawsuit against yours truly, Garrett Ziegler, and our nonprofit Marco Polo for publishing the truth. And they introduced as an exhibit in the lawsuit a transcript of an interview I did. And they included all of my 7 filler words. 35-minute interview. I had, 7 to 10 ums and or like that. Hunter had 7 within the last 30 seconds. And why? Because the crack cocaine has literally fried some of his synapses. He can't talk as well anymore. His dad stutters. Hunter has worse stuttering than his father because we're listening to somebody who smoked crack for years every 15 minutes. So if you're wondering why it's just, it's like worse than the autistic guy Elon Musk doing an interview. Because some of his brain is gone. Look at revered studies from the federal government and other entities that talk about the long-term synapse destruction related to crack cocaine, heroin, and meth use.
It's not a defense of Trump to ask then why on the big failures of the Trump administration, the real ones, the ones that, history will record, like this war, there's been no pushback from the other side at all.
Yeah.
So that tells you, you could say lots of things about Trump are bad, but getting us into a war we can't win in which...
That's an untrue statement on the part of Tucker. I'm not counting his. I'm only counting Hunter's because I'm an expert on Hunter's bullshit. There's been a tremendous amount of pushback, especially from the judiciary, which is going to be... We're having a big announcement for Marco Polo. Our next project's going to be on that third branch. But there's been a tremendous amount of pushback in lawfare against Trump. It's ridiculous for him to say this.
Americans are dying in Iran that will only diminish America's power and bankrupt us. That's the only exit, really.
Yeah.
And make Iran stronger. And no, Chuck Schumer is like, yeah, it's bad. But of course he endorses, the whole leadership structure endorses that. So can't really say, they like Trump now.
Yeah. I don't know if they like Trump.
Maybe it's he's obnoxious or whatever, but he's doing what they want.
I think it's a little bit of well, by the way, I don't disagree that there's an enormous failure of the of what I call the elite oligarch Epstein class.
Totally rich for him to say this. Those were his clients. The elite oligarch Epstein class paid Hunter's bills for decades because he traded on access. He was a godforsaken lobbyist. The amount of doublespeak is nauseating. So that's the... well, let's just be very conservative and keep it at 9 for now. Because although it's hypocritical to say that... meaning that he was a part of this class just as much as anybody else he's going to be bitching about. I want to have a verifiable false statement to include, so when I go back and watch this again, that I'm dead set, I'm very strong in my number allegations of false statements and lies.
Of Washington, D.C.
Yes.
That you and I both know.
Very well.
Yes, and that have... that are as interested in protecting their corporate overlords as they are in protecting anything. And just take the issue of stock trading. Okay.
Yeah.
My dad in 1972 took a vow that he would never own a stock or a bond, and he kept that vow since 19.
Again, that's just one aspect of financial corruption, right? It's a sophistry tactic. He's expecting you to take this logical leap. Because Joe Biden didn't have a stock or a bond, therefore he wasn't financially corrupt. That's not logical. That's just saying 2 avenues he, on purpose, blocked for himself. But that doesn't go into Mel Monzak and all of the other ways that Hunter paid for his bills. And Hunter admitted to his own daughter that he had to pay his dad's bills for 30 years. In fact, there it is. January 3rd, 2019, 2 days after he called God a fiction of the imagination of the collective frightened, he said to his daughter Naomi, who's a lawyer, Arnold Porter, by the way, I hope you can all do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. That's an admission of a RICO operation. It's the only time I put RICO in the book, 18 USC 1961. It's a clear RICO violation, in writing, to his adult daughter. So, either Hunter's lying now, he's lying regardless, but this is incontrovertible. What else could he have meant by, unlike Pop, who's Joe, I won't make you give me half your salary? So Hunter's saying, oh shit, he didn't take a stock or a bond. Wow, he's really above board. Then in another private conversation with his adult daughter saying, your grandpa made me give him half my salary for 30 years, which is an exaggeration. Hunter started getting on the grift after Yale Law School at MBA in 1998, so 20 years. He adds 30 years. Or he adds 10 years to make it 30, but it's really 20 years.
22 and over 50 years of public life. And
total swamp rat, career politician schmuck. Joe Biden's going to be looked at even worse than Jimmy Carter because although they're both Democrats from a state that's only sent one president to the White House each, Jimmy at least built some homes after he left office with Habitat for Humanity and lived to 100. Joe's going to do neither.
Retired from the presidency as having probably the lowest net worth of anyone that had ever.
It's a total lie. That's the 10th one. Truman was so poor they had to create a presidential pension for him. And Eisenhower. See? And he kept about having probably the lowest net worth of anyone. That's a false statement. I'm not going to go with lie because he added in the adverb probably. But it is a false statement. Eisenhower and Truman and Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton left with mountains of debt. So there's 3 people who had less of a net worth at that time.
Entered the presidency. And meanwhile, he got taxed.
That's even, let's say when he left, there are 3 people who were poorer than him. Eisenhower, well, let's go in order. Truman, Eisenhower, and Bill Clinton. When he entered it, Biden had multiple millions in liquidity from the book deal and other bullshit. He bought Jill the house in Rehoboth. So that too is a lie. Number 11. We're at 11 and 20 minutes in.
With this idea that he, is the Biden crime family and that, all of that crap. But my point being is
all that crap. Biden crime family. No, we have multiple felonies for multiple members of the family. That's the 12th false statement. Jimmy committed FARA violations. Let's go back to the business-related crimes. There were mandated reporter violations. Let's type in mandated. Mandated. Joe, Jill, Ashley, and Jimmy Biden. Liz Olivier, who's the sister of Hunter's sister-in-law, who he was boinking at the time. The deceased mother of the sister-in-law he was boinking, Joanne Olivier, and 2 therapists. Keith Abloh, got his medical license taken away for screwing his patients, and Carly Dolan, who's a licensed counselor in California. All of these people knew about Hallie's allegations that Hunter was sexually inappropriate. All of these people. So it is the Biden crime family. You can make an argument there's a Trump crime family because he was convicted, however unfair the process was in New York. I obviously think it's bullshit. But what I'm trying to say is from a technical level, this guy was pardoned. How can he say the Biden crime family is bullshit when he had the largest pardon in American history? Number 12.
How is it that we have not been able to pass a law?
I couldn't agree more.
I know you do agree. But how is it possible? And it's not just Republicans.
Pass a law that prohibits members of Congress
Yes,
from
of
trading.
course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most common sense thing in the world. It should be in the administration, too. It should be anybody with access to the most valuable insider information of all. And meanwhile, not only are we not passing the law, Donald Trump is selling $100,000 early access to his True Social tweets, which is just a front running for...
This is wrong. We have no evidence that Trump was directly involved in the selling of the API. What he's talking about is the parent company for True Social selling early API access. I oppose that, but what he's saying is he has no proof for what he's saying that Donald Trump was directly involved. You can make a leap, but he doesn't make the leap in the discussion. I almost called it an interview, but I caught myself. He doesn't make that leap in the discussion, which he should. But I don't approve of the API access to the parent company of True Social. That's wrong.
Insider trading, literally in the open, and that's what I mean. The quantitative, qualitative difference.
But the way it's currently written, there's no law against it. Doesn't mean it's not immoral. Doesn't mean it should be illegal. Just means that right now I can't find evidence that it is illegal.
of Donald Trump as compared to anything I've ever experienced in politics before is the sense that the rule of law is only
this is false statement number 13. The idea that the phrase rule of law comes out of the mouth of the guy who received the largest pardon in American history is laughable. He has zero moral authority on this issue. He should shut the fuck up about rule of law. And I'm here to throw cold water on this bullshit media tour. And believe me, they watch everything I do. They transcribe interviews. His own lawyers do.
Applies as a weapon rather than as a prophylactic for the Constitution to be able to operate in a way in which the founders envisioned it.
Everybody knows that bleach is powerful, and you know that by the
I can't watch these stupid ass ads.
chemical plant. There's almost no arguing with your point. That's true.
Yeah.
I would just say
I can't even go there. We're 13 lies and false statements in.
I think it's been that way for a long time, and it's just open now. It's open. It's just obvious. If you're selling Truth Social access.
Yeah, man, but it's like come on. It's just like, I saw this guy. There's this incredible guy on TikTok, and he's a professor, but he goes, it's a red cup garage. He's like and have you ever seen this? Oh, you don't have any of this. He explains things by using red Solo cups.
Yeah.
And he has this thing. Everybody go look at it. It's all of the money that every president of the 45 that came before Donald Trump made in the presidency. Okay, and it's 4 blue Solo cups. Okay. And then all of the money that Donald Trump has openly said that he made in his financial report in the first 500 days of the presidency. And it is over $3 billion. And it takes the entire wall.
Yeah.
It's like, and
I mean, you can't argue that. I mean, presidents shouldn't make any money in office. Like,
no,
what is this?
No. And by the way, this whole idea of blind trust. And so that's what I mean by the qualitative and the quantitative difference. And the idea that
the quantitative difference is that we have you and your associates on 450 violations of state and federal laws and regs. If Hunter can produce anything near that, because remember, if he doesn't, this is just entertainment. We put it on paper. If anybody's listening to this and you want to talk about Trump, put it down on paper and I'll read it in a very clear format like we did. Business-related crimes. Put the date, put the venue, put the accomplices, and put the statute. And like a sentient, sober adult, I will read it. Until then, if all you're going to do is talk about generalities, shut the fuck up.
That there are still a group of people out there that voted for Donald Trump because they thought that they were going to be able to change things. You know, we talked about this a little bit and before we came on. But my hero, and I know that you are as it relates to in public life, people that is one of them, with all of his faults, was Teddy Roosevelt.
Great.
And Teddy Roosevelt.
Signed picture of him over there with my great-grandfather.
Exactly. Yeah. I got something for you, by the way. But
it'll be a piece of his art. I'm sad that
Teddy
they
Roosevelt,
didn't post a picture like him and Sean Ryan did with Hunter's doodles. Hunter's art is akin to art you find on the wall of a Holiday Inn in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's better than I can do, certainly. I can't even do stickmen very well. But it's not anything that special. And you can see that by the amount of pieces he sold when his daddy was in power, which came about through the child support litigation that I was involved in down in Arkansas, versus when his daddy wasn't in power.
By all accounts, came very close to abusing the power of the executive.
Oh, you think? He certainly did.
But he did it because he realized that in order for this experiment to be able to continue, you could not have a unfettered oligarch class.
The oligarch class that Hunter's talking about is who his dad was financed by for the entirety of his career politician shtick for nearly 60 years. All of the dirty big money from Hollywood, Wall Street, they all went in for Joe. There was a big Wall Street push for Joe in 2020. So what I'm trying to say is he's waxing ad nauseum about, he's trying to give you a historical rundown because he got a BA in history with somewhat shitty grades from Georgetown, and he thinks he's qualified to now talk about this historical, arc that Teddy Roosevelt contributed to. It's all horseshit. His dad was the beneficiary of the exact system that he's now railing against. And this type of analysis you won't see from Tucker. Tucker's just nodding along.
That drained all of the wealth of a country and put it into their pockets, while the other
That's false statement number 14. Doesn't relate directly to the laptop. But there's a difference between certain people having too much from a moral sense of the pie and then draining the pie. That's not, meaning I actually agree that there are corrupt oligarchs. My medicine for the problem is much different than Hunter's. But I've read the classics, unlike Hunter, and I know that oligarchy is bad, and you want a Republican, not an oligarchy, and oligarchies always challenge republics, and sometimes they dissent into them. I'm well aware of the history. But what he just said there was false, so we're at number 14.
8, 9. No, by the way, and people don't understand this. I'm not talking 1%. I'm talking the 0.01%.
Yes.
There are only a little over 9,000 families in this country who are billionaires. Out of 300.
I would make a wager, and this isn't going to be borne out by my math on my sheet, but I would bet 90% of the 9,000 families he's talking about right now went for Joe, put money towards Joe, because they're all globalist, just like Hunter.
50 million people. You know what this is shocking to me. You know what puts you in the top 1% of income earners in this country?
No.
Annual? $750,000.
That's the top 1%?
1%. So the people that I'm not talking about taxing or redistributing wealth among the top 1%. I'm not talking about it even in the top 0.5%, which would be like $10 million. I'm talking about the 0.01%, literally about a little under 10,000 individuals in this country that control and that have almost like 40% of the entire wealth of a nation, who decide.
9,000 families have 40% of the entire
wealth. Somebody do the numbers for me. I probably screwed that up.
Somebody do the numbers for me. Hunter's lazy as shit.
He
has people do everything for him. This guy's not. He doesn't work hard. He doesn't do anything all day other than his doodles.
Entire considered wealth of this country.
Well, you can't have democracy under those circumstances.
No, you can't. And Teddy
we don't have a democracy. We have a republic. There's an argument that a republic can't work when you have too big of an oligarch class. But Tucker's not that sophisticated.
That. And what he did is he went out and he used the power of the executive to be able to go out and bust the trust and redistribute that wealth. It was called the square deal. And then he used the power of the executive to do things that are every single one of us still benefits from today, which is, for instance, the national park system.
Yes.
The entire national park system was the brainchild of one person as it related to one island, which was Audubon. And he came to Teddy Roosevelt and he said, "Hey, look, we're losing this magnificent place, this island off in the Gulf off the coast of Florida, and because it's a bird habitat that has, I don't know, like half the species of wild birds." And he comes to Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Roosevelt just goes out and he says, "Okay," and he turned it into the first national park, I think, and then he went out and he did that.
I'm not educated enough to know the exact history there, so I'm not going to say it's a false statement.
The country. I mean, can you imagine doing that today? No. But can you even imagine the people Donald Trump having a thought about using the power of the executive to benefit anyone but himself first?
No.
And that's the thing.
But I also look back on the last.
That's the 15th false statement, not directly related to the laptop. But as somebody who worked under Trump was my boss's boss. I can tell you there are many times, especially with our trade deals, and some of these tariffs even Hunter's daddy kept in place, that there was not much thought of benefiting himself. I'm not saying that Trump isn't self-interested. Of course not. That'd be ridiculous. But I'm saying that is a false statement because he does think about things other than himself. I mean, that's just a grossly inaccurate statement.
20 years anyway, and I can't really think of many big executive initiatives that benefited the majority.
No, neither do I, and that may be a question about the unitary executive but no one has ever done it in a way in which where literally I believe that everything that he has done it contains not just an underlying current of how does it benefit him personally. It is the first thought of everything that he does.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
The problem I have with focusing on Trump, and I'm trying not to be defensive because obviously I campaigned for Trump and with Trump and spoke at the Republican National Convention and defended Trump for a decade on Fox News. So I'm definitely implicated in it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just defensiveness. I think two things. One, focusing on Trump as the source of all evil in the world drives you crazy. Like I saw that happen to my
I don't believe that, just I don't believe that he's the source of all evil.
Right, but people who feel that way. Who literally, I had one of my closest friends went off the deep end.
Yeah.
Just like, Trump! And all of a sudden Trump's under the bed and it's like, whoa. Yeah. It's monomania.
Yeah.
But I also think it's like...
He was under my bed.
Okay, that's fine.
Tucker's laugh's weird as hell. I can't pretend like, it reminds me of that play Amadeus about Mozart.
Along with some of his friends.
It's so good. But second, it's like exculpatory to the rest of us. It's like, I don't know. I watched a lot of crappy stuff happen in D.C. over the 35 years I lived there, and I didn't
35
even
years
recognize it as crappy at the time. And we're all kind of implicated in this. We've had a lot of bad leaders.
That's probably the best thing that Tucker said I didn't recognize it as crappy as the time. So let's put one in Tucker's column. It might not even reach 2, but that's one. That's one of the first true things he said.
Actually, or mediocre.
Meaning he has no wisdom. He had no wisdom then.
I don't know, we've had a flamboyantly corrupt leader like this, and we haven't, ever. That's true. We've had a lot of low-grade, kind of like, what's in it from...
Flamboyantly corrupt? That's what Hussein and Joe were as well. Joe's FBI raided people who were trespassers who didn't touch a thing in the Capitol. That's what I would call flamboyantly corrupt. Merrick Garland, my goodness. Was he asleep for the last 4 years? This is his false equivalency. He wants to show Hunter that, hey, I'm like you. I woke up now, right? It's gross.
Leadership, and we tolerated it, and we celebrated things that were not impressive at all, and pretended they were impressive, and ooh, so brave, and all this. It's like, it was all crap, actually. We're kind of, this is the end of like a long cycle of mediocrity. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so I've owned up.
Yep.
Okay, to like for instance,
I've owned up.
I'm absolutely certain that
Nope. I've owned up. That's false statement. That's a lie, actually. That's beyond false statement. That's lie number 16. False statement / lie 16. We're at 16 because he hasn't owned up to the FAR violations, the money laundering, or the daughter in Arkansas.
my engagement in Washington D.C. As when I took on Burisma when my dad was vice president as a client at the end of the year, is like it was a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't.
That wasn't just stupid. It was totally illegal. He was a foreign agent along with Sally Painter and Karen Tramontano. Let's type in Painter. There it is. There they are. Page 136 in our dossier. These were, in fact, the DOJ, even under Joe, made Painter and Tramontano backdate their FARA filings. They had to register as foreign agents, meaning what they did was illegal at the time, and they gave them an out. It's the only time besides Tony Podesta that they were able to backdate a FARA filing.
Aware of.
We're at 17 now in 31 minutes.
Of what a swamp it was, and the narrative that would be able to be spun. It was a horrible.
I wasn't fully aware of the swamp it was. He made his money. I'm going to say that's false statement number 18. I mean, it's just pathetic to tell us that with a straight face and expect us to believe the bullshit. He made his money, all of the dollars, through that swamp. How are you not fully? You knew that you got the gig because of how swampy it was.
Yeah. Now I had my reasons, okay, but they're not good enough. I own that. I own the idea that I do believe that there is this revolving door in Washington, D.C. that needs to be shut.
That needs to be shut. Oh, only because I have sullied my reputation so much that I have to make money in other ways now.
In which people come in and out of administrations. We know them all.
They're trading on access.
And they're not bad people that are trading on access.
That's a false statement. They are bad people trading on access, and they need to be criminally prosecuted. False statement number 19.
I did not trade on access. You can look through.
I did not trade on access. I'm going to circle that one, guys. We're at 20. That's the biggest lie so far. I don't know where to start with that. Let's go to a guy named Randy Russell. He offers to contact people with regard to Randy Russell's Chinese kids adoption. I just had dinner. Hunter just said I did not trade on access. The email is May 11th, 2011. I just had dinner with the Chinese Deputy Chief of Mission, Deng Hongbo, here in D.C., and we've developed a little bit of a relationship. So once the visa is issued, I can contact him directly. Should I have somebody from my father's office weigh in, or is that overkill? And or should I send email or call personally? I am willing, ready, able to do all the above or none of the above at your direction. How about David Wade on Kerry's staff? This is the exact thing I'm talking about. So when he says this, and I circled number 20, we're fifth of the way in terms of the number of lies and false statements. When he says this bullshit lie, some lies can't be corrected in the moment, right? When you're out talking to your colleagues, you may not have an email saying to you, approving that what they just said was horseshit. This is that email. This is just one of them. Another, let's do high as I could. This is another one, page 160. I've memorized this entire dossier. 179,000 words, 644 pages. The extremely persistent Pizarski needed Hunter at a, quote, very critical moment, and Hunter apparently delivered on Burisma's behalf. Keep Devin Archer updated. I went as high as I could. So meaning he went high up in the administration to deliver what Burisma wanted. It's absolutely disgusting. Here's another one. Talking about Evan Ryan. I talked with Sally and Karen, and they said they called Blinken at 5:30. This implicates Evan Ryan, Blue Star Strategies, and they had to register for this illegal act, backdating it, meaning they could do this, but they had to register as foreign agents, and they didn't. Evan Ryan was Assistant Secretary of State. Her husband, Tony Blinken, was the deputy at the time. He became Joey's sitting Secretary of State afterwards. It's a complete lie. I never traded on Access. Complete lie. And we have the evidence to prove it.
22 years of mine. But I know
it's not
this.
22 years. That's the 21st lie or false statement. At the most, as we said, it's 12 years at the most. So 21 in.
I received incredible privileges that no one else in the world, including to the point of my pardon. No, literally, there's no one else in the world that was in my position.
That's true.
Their father happened to have the authority and the power to do it. And I realize how privileged I am. But I think that there is I think that there needs to be a reckoning with if I'm willing to do that.
You're not willing to do it
and
because you don't talk about the money laundering and the FARA. That's 22.
I like Thomas Massey. I like where Marjorie Taylor Greene is going.
Look at the synapses. Look at the synapses, how fried they are. Whenever he talks about an abstract idea or person, he stutters. This guy's brain's totally fried. And people are going to let him get away with it. If I don't do this lie correction video, which dozens of people in my life have asked me to do, and I'm doing it as a public service because I run a charity, meaning the work we do is by its definition unprofitable, it won't get done. 22 lies. And I've been stopping so you can see where it's bullshit exactly.
I like that there are people that have kind of woken up to the... But a lot of the reason that we're here is because of Fox News.
No evidence for that whatsoever. I'm going to call that a false statement. A lot of the reason why we're here is not because of Fox News. Fox News, like CNN and all these others, just jumped on the 24-hour news cycle. That started with Ted Turner in the 90s. Hunter's completely ahistorical, zero nuanced. He's a bullshitter. His father is one of the most... What Joe is incredible at is bullshitting. Joe has changed every public position from busing to abortion to trade to China in his 60-year career politician shtick. He believes in nothing except Joe Biden. That's what makes his complaints about Trump so ridiculous. You can say he's saying that Trump only thinks about himself and goes which way the wind is blowing and goes which way benefits him. Trump has said the same shit on China and trade since the 80s and Japan since the 80s. Joe has flip-flopped on everything. When the opportunities for sinecures from China came to his family, he said China's not a competitor, man. And his stupid little man shtick, come on, man.
A lot of it has to do...
Well, we're in a war right now because if they were losing because of Fox News. I couldn't agree more.
And so
that's a false statement. We don't know that it was because of Fox News. We could say that it's because, and rightfully say that it's the disproportionate, in terms of their numbers of bodies, the disproportionate influence that the Jewish lobby has had on the Republican and Democrat parties for years. It's not because of Fox News.
I don't think that every problem this country faces is because of Donald Trump. I don't think that he is the source of all evil. I don't even remotely believe that. I do believe this, though. We are at an inflection point in this country. Whether it's because of the technology as it relates to AI and as it relates to our debt and the fact that Donald Trump is responsible for 20% of the entire debt of the entire nation over the course of the since its inception.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah, bonkers.
Yeah.
And we are in desperate need of leadership.
I agree.
And so I want to reach across to everybody and say, look, let's figure out what the thing.
He does not want to reach across to everybody. He wouldn't reach out. It's the 24th one. Wouldn't reach out to Miranda Devine. Won't reach out to me. Won't reach out to anybody who doesn't just nod along and clap like a stupid-ass seal to his lies and false statements.
Instead of pointing, and constantly. And one of the things that I think that we can agree on is that we have the exact wrong leadership at the exact wrong time.
No, we can't all agree on that. That's false statement number 25. Your father let in this is another stupid ad. His father let in tens of millions of illegal aliens, and he's talking about leadership. Whatever Trump does, and I'm a tough grader, right? So I don't approve of a lot of what the Trump administration is doing, and it's why I'm not in there. But nevertheless, the most traitorous thing you can do is allow your country to be invaded. That's what his father did. So whenever he's waxing ad nauseum about this, remember that. There's another ad.
Has always been at the center of the American. So, finger pointing is unhelpful, except when we point fingers at ourselves. That is very helpful.
Very
it's
helpful.
Very important to say. That's kind of what I was inarticulately trying to express to you, which is like it gets the rest of us off the hook to point to one guy and be like, it's all his fault. It's like, actually, it's all of our fault, including mine.
Yeah.
And I, famously advocated for the Iraq War.
Zero
and thought
wisdom.
that was the last stupid thing I was ever going to do. It turns out it wasn't.
Why would anybody believe Tucker now if he didn't have wisdom then? And he's so meaning this guy obviously has no wisdom. He's an entertainer.
Advocated for all kinds of things that I now regret advocating for.
Particularly the things that you said about me.
There's the Amadeus stupid ass laugh again.
Deep regret. No, I do actually. I regret in the sense that as someone who has dealt with addiction, not quite as in exciting ways you did, but I've been there for sure. Extend grace to people who are out of their minds. Like you would think.
We've never not extended grace to Hunter because he was an addict. It's because of his corruption. This is one of the sophistry tactics. I was on Greg Kelly's program the other day, and he had to look up sophistry in the dictionary. He'd heard it before, obviously, but he said it was a perfect explanation of what Hunter was trying to do. Thank you. I appreciate that compliment. And it is because sophistry tickles your id. Good sophistry makes the argument appear solid, but once you read it in a transcript, you realize it's horseshit. Nobody was making fun of Hunter purely because he was an addict. Nobody's serious like us. If Hunter were just an addict, it would be like Jimmy Carter's daughter getting kicked out of Brown for using pot. It was because Hunter was playing international businessman and thought he was very qualified for Burisma. You can go look up the Jimmy Fallon interview, or Jimmy Kimmel, whatever the frick that loser's name is. And he said, no, I was very qualified for Burisma. Absolutely hysterically funny.
Would do that. I should have done that more. So I do regret that. But no, what I'm saying is like you look back and like I really thought that I could influence Trump into
Talk about that.
not going into this war.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point.
No, I mean that's the core of it right there.
Because you said the things that you said about Trump after 2020, which are famously out there.
When I got pissed in a text with a producer
which,
and then Fox
out of
News
context
text,
and all that.
the New York Times,
Yeah, wonderful organization you work for.
Really ridiculous.
And so, and
they didn't leak
talk
it.
about how you came
They just
around.
responded to a discovery request. By the way, funny insider baseball. Let's make a mark out of this. Page 37. The guy who represented Fox News sued me on behalf of Hunter, Paul Salvati. He was the one representing and agreed to a $700 million settlement. So Paul Salvati was the one who leaked Tucker's text. Hunter doesn't say this. He probably doesn't even know this because he's not sophisticated enough. But Paul Salvati was the fox guarding the hen house, and it was a left-wing shitlib whose sister ran the DEI portion of the University of California system for years. Paul Savati is a shitlib lawyer who should be disbarred, worked at Winston & Strawn, knowingly lied in multiple legal documents, violated multiple local rules when he pulled out of the case in March of 2025. He was the one who orchestrated that. Hunter has no clue. It's just water off a duck's back to him. He's so lazy he doesn't even know this.
In 2024, not as it relates to like you just knee-jerk reaction to being opposed to Democrats, but why?
Oh no, it was a very specific trajectory. Yeah. I was. This is like such an impossible rich guy thing to say, but it's just a fact. I was in Europe with my kids on the Med, August of 2023, I think, and Mar-a-Lago got raided. And that was ridiculous on a documents charge, really. And I'm from the city, so like I know a lot about the documents stuff. Yeah. And it was like transparently absurd. They're literally sending armed FBI agents into his bathroom. Like, no. And so to me, what that said was Trump is actually being persecuted by the Uniparty. Therefore, he is its sincere opponent. And my overriding feeling, since I wrote a whole book on this 10 years ago, is that the problem in Washington is that on the big questions of the economy and foreign policy, both parties agree. It's the agreement that is the threat, not the disagreement. So I thought that, and I thought, well, Trump is they're trying to put him in jail on these nonsense charges, and
Hunter doesn't say anything because he doesn't think they're nonsense
and I was
charges.
Like,
he wanted Mar-a-Lago to get raided way before it did.
Is their opponent. So I thought, and this is my sin, I can have an effect. And my goal, literally from that moment up until February 28th, was I don't want to go to war with Iran. Because I really saw that as the end of a lot of stuff, of the post-war order, which is kind of ridiculous, but compared to what? I'm kind of against the post-war order. On the other hand, I'm not sure what follows will be better. Yeah. So I was really focused on this Iran thing, and I knew that both parties were for it. Schumer's totally for it. Lindsey Graham's totally for it. They're all colluding against America to start this regime change war with Iran. And I was like, I'm going to single-mindedly focus on this. That's all I'm going to do with my life is and I knew a lot of people in the Middle East, and I thought, oh man, I can do this. And I realized on February 28th, first of all, I had zero power, okay? But it was mostly vanity. I was like, I have a mission. I can do this. And it was, I overstated my own.
This is introspection sophistry. Meaning, if you take him at his own word, what makes you think he's not going to take back what he's saying right now in 10 years?
Influence, like dramatically in a very embarrassing way. And my own importance. And like, I thought I could do things that like I had no control over any of this stuff. And I was humiliated correctly. Mm-hmm. I was humiliated in front of my wife. I was like, you're doing a good thing. And so, yeah, I was mad at Trump, but I was also really mad at myself. And so that's the story. And I actually am really grateful I went through that. Yeah. Because it puts your own power in context. You think.
He was delusional. The person with the power is the president, and we were talking about the Israeli lobby, and particularly the Jewish lobby, which we all know has enormous power in the United States. And the only people that can't admit it are the people who haven't been in Washington or who are paid to not admit it. But again, that has no bearing on Tucker's wisdom. Like, if he's like almost 60 and just now realizing this, it's sad.
You've got all this, whatever, SWAT.
If he wanted power, run for office yourself.
None.
My business is not in power. My business is to speak the truth. That's what that is what I'm doing. It's an unprofitable venture. That's why I run a charity.
So what next?
I have no idea. But
no, I mean, really.
What, for me?
Yeah, not just for you, but what next for all of us? Like, I am. I've been out talking to people, and completely different audiences, across the board, and the most significant reason why I decided to go out and talk.
Completely different audiences across the board. That's almost a false statement, but I will say that he has a little bit of a point here because they're all shit libs who don't ask him any tough questions, and they're not really interviews. So in that way, the audience is the same.
That what I realize is that my experience is not only not unique, it's almost universal. Now, to the degree that my addiction overwhelmed me, is sometimes often exaggerated by virtue of how much attention has been paid to it. It was 2 years of my life.
Some people noticed.
Yeah, some people noticed. Oh, yeah, exactly. God, it was awful. I mean, noticed to the degree that, my wife and I were living in the hills in L.A.
Multi-View Drive.
And we had this little place. And
it wasn't little. It's multi-million-dollar place.
It was just early in my recovery. And Trump, from the Oval Office, invited in these right-wing influencers, these MAGA influencers online. And this is back in 2019. And he started the Where's Hunter thing. And the next day, the New York Post printed an aerial photograph of the house that I live in, where you could stand on the street below to be able to look through the floor-to-ceiling windows. And a group of men with bullhorns and MAGA hats showed up at the door, banging on the door, with my then pregnant wife, who was home alone, who literally fled the house.
There's no evidence for this. Zero. They haven't produced a thing.
They chased her in a car and literally ran her up the road. And that was my experience for...
Literally ran her off the road. He said this story. Unlike with the dossier, I can't disprove it, so I'm not going to put it as number 26, but 26 is coming.
Like a 2-year period of time until my dad was elected. And then we got Secret Service, and we'd left that house because in the middle of the night. And the next house we went to, they found us, and this documentary filmmaker ended up being like he wrote a whole scripted film.
He's talking about Phaleem McAleer and Anne McElhenney, Irish producers. I've been on their program several times.
Parked a billboard truck.
We're in LA.
Yeah, in LA, in Venice. I was right on South.
Why is he bitching about this? Your dad's the president. The Trumps have to deal, and many other U.S. presidents' families have to deal with unwanted paparazzi attention. Get over it. Look at the amount of bitching he's doing. It just goes to show that he was never meant for this. His father, Joe's a total fraud, got in through fraudulent means. And he wasn't cut out for it. That's what he's saying. That's what he's admitting. I'm not cut out for this. People are getting under my skin. He's bitching.
Boulevard. He parked a one of those digital billboard trucks in front of my house that ran all of the nude pictures of me.
He didn't run a single nude photo. That's false statement number 26. Everything was blurred out. Nobody has shown Hunter's genitalia on a billboard truck. We rented billboard trucks and parked them outside the White House. All the genitalia was blurred out. Tucker's just nodding along.
Actually?
For a week.
For a week. I talked to Philem. It wasn't a week. It was a couple days. So 27 false statements in the first 42 minutes and or lies.
Straight. And then sat on the canal with bullhorns in a canoe and just shouted at my house over and over again for a week. Then we had to leave that house.
He had to leave that house because he didn't pay the rent. It was, I can't remember if it was Sean McGuire's house or the Sweet Greens founder. Both Jewish guys from LA that he rented from, and they trashed the place. Many Daily Mail articles about this. So that's false statement number 28. He didn't have to leave the house because MAGA people were using bullhorns on the Venice Canal. They left it because they wouldn't get renewed because they trashed the place and owe him like hundreds of thousands of dollars in back rent. These people they live like animals.
No, God, no. Some crazy guy. You know, I mean, he was not crazy. He was, you know, he then went on to make a whole movie about me. But anyway, my point.
Did you see it?
What?
Did you see it?
No, I didn't. I did not see it. Do not go see that movie.
I didn't know it existed. But
Didn't know it existed. Well, Tucker's living under a rock. It's called My Son Hunter. And I'll send that clip to Philem.
But, you know, my point is that I have the total exposure that I've had has given me this incredible gift. And number one is that by that transparency is that I don't have any more secrets.
False statement number 29. His entire alimony agreement is under a secret sealed order in the District of Columbia Superior Court. It's false statement number 29. He does have many more secrets. There's many things that I wanted. All of his WhatsApp messages we didn't get. The Wicker messages, meaning the messages on the app Wicker that he downloaded multiple times. All that stuff we don't have. That's what he's saying. Every voicemail, every phone call, none of that's true. We had emails for about a decade, which were ones that he didn't manually delete, and we know that he manually deleted a lot of them because there's a huge gap right before and after he gets kicked out of the Navy for coke. And then there's all of these. The iMessages only run from March of 2018 to March of 2019. There's only 1 year of those, right? In the iPhone backup, which was a standalone file on the hard drive, which came from the original device, which is still held by the FBI. We know the exact serial number. So at most, it's a fraction of what he's saying. It's not 22 years.
And the secrets that I felt ashamed of, like just the word crack. Like, you know, I mean, it's so heavy. It shocks people. All of the associations that people make out of, particularly of our generation.
Yes.
And to be able to speak about it openly. And what I found is this deep connection with people. There's no wall between me and them anymore. And because they know all of my flaws, the ones that you would never want to show anyone. And they know I'm willing to talk about them.
He's not willing to talk about them. False statement number 30. He's not talked about any of the money laundering, any of the FAR violations, any of the RICO violations that he admitted to his daughter Naomi, that his father made him give him half his salary. It's nuts. Not a single question about that text from Tucker. That's why I called it a Glaze fest. This isn't an interview.
In that, they're able to come up to me and say, I mean, everywhere I go. When I got off the plane in the airport, someone came up to me, told me about their experience in recovery. Thanks for what I'm doing. You know, they got their brother just got arrested though, is in jail. You know, you got to do something about the fentanyl deaths here. It's everybody. And it's been an incredibly beautiful, beautiful experience. And I say to everybody is that I'll talk about the politics, but it's really the bait to be able to talk about the thing that connects.
I agree with him. There is a truth statement that his bullshit views on politics and policy, it's rage bait for a lot. But if I'm not there to correct it, that rage bait stands. So that's why I'm putting this back into the world. And this will now be the reaction video. I did it for Sean Ryan and I did it for Tucker because those are the two biggest betrayals. Candace is not much of a betrayal, although I did do a reaction video with my friend Robert Gouveia on that program.
And so, all the way back, sitting down with Candace, is that the thing that Candace and I were able to connect on in a very human way. It was her own experience, not personally, but with her family and addiction and the people that she loved. And I don't know anyone that hasn't been impacted by it.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And I guess what my point is that by starting there for me, I feel like our connection as it relates to it. I've known you've been sober for well over 20 years now.
24 years this month.
24 years this month. And so your capacity to be able to understand it at that level and also at a family level makes it a lot easier to see the Hunter that you thought that you knew. And I think, and by the way, I'm not putting words into your mouth.
No, I think that's 100% true.
But the thing for me is that with you, the transformation, not transformation, because it's not a transformation. Anybody that knows you realizes it's not a transformation. Is out on your own now, and not understandably, like anybody that has a job, being beholden to a corporate structure.
Yeah,
Fox News. Is that I feel as if that combined with the incredible ultimate betrayal, and what I mean by betrayal of the promise, the singular promise that was important to you as it related to Trump.
Yes,
that we would not get into the potential of ending up in a World War III, or another incredibly devastating, protracted war in that region that would expand clearly with the entire global oil supply in jeopardy.
It's so crazy. I cannot even believe it happened.
Is that
the thing that people should be saying about this, and I don't agree with anything we're doing in Iran, is we captured the Venezuelan leader. Our company should have went in and taken the complete oil supply of Venezuela, and that would deal with the supply shock. That's what you'll hear from very few people, and that's the sophisticated take that I have been privately and publicly advocating for. It's what we should have done.
Given an opening for us to be able to have a conversation that is more constructive about a way forward. That's my feeling.
I strongly agree with that. You know, one thing that might make you feel
Another ad.
pretty darn good. And always I've certainly talked about you and all the drama that you went through a lot.
Drama.
I have really only one question, one thing that has bothered me for years now.
Yeah.
8 years or whatever, 6 years, whatever it's been. And so I just want to ask you directly about it. So the laptop comes out, or doesn't come out. I hear that it's in circulation. I get calls from people.
This is where the lies are going to pick up, guys.
You're
Way
familiar
before,
with.
right?
I can't remember.
Anyway, yeah.
So much drama has happened, but you know, if you're in the news business.
That's a false statement. Number 30. False statement number 30. Way before. No. The laptop was dropped off April 12th. The Congress didn't do anything. We'll get into this. And therefore, it came out much later than it should have. It should have came out in the spring of 2020 when J.P. McIsaac approached Ron Johnson, John Solomon, and other people. But it became an October surprise to their benefit, not the truth's benefit.
Or politics, like you know, people call you. There's this thing. You hear everything all the time, and like how much is true, you don't know. I heard about the laptop, and then I heard, so you don't know if it's real. And then I heard somebody calls me and goes, "You're on the laptop," and because you had written a letter of recommendation for college for my son, who didn't end up going to the school or even getting in, but whatever, it didn't help. It turns out.
Oh, thanks.
It's Georgetown. He's talking about Buckley Carlson. I know Tucker's son. I had breakfast with him years ago. Not impressive guy.
Anyway, I knew that it was real because who would know that we knew each other, right? No one could fake that, and that our wives were friends and all stuff. So
they talked about what I talked about everybody getting. Their wives are friends.
You know everybody there. So then I hear this story about how, then the official story comes out about how the laptop was left. You left a couple of laptops in a laptop repair store in Greenville, Delaware, which a town I'm very familiar with. So, and the guy was blind. Then I interviewed the guy who seems to totally believe the story, John McIsaac. I mean, he's
totally believe the story.
He seemed to be telling the truth. But the story did not make sense. Meanwhile, we get approached by Israelis.
It's just one Israeli, Yaakov Applebaum, who got a copy from J.P. McIsaac. Doesn't in any way affect the veracity of JP's story. This is the sophistry tactic that Tucker is using. He's conflating J.P. McIsaac, the shop owner, with Yaakov Applebaum, who's a bullshit artist to begin with. I mean, he's a former IDF guy. But they're conflating those two, and therefore, because they don't like Yaakov, what came out of the hard drive from JP's shop, which Hunter signed the repair authorization for. Let's just look at it. Wayne Barnes. Wayne. There it is. Signed it. Quote 7469 on page 37 of our dossier.
To Benjamin Netanyahu, like I know that.
Yeah.
Who are shopping this stuff to me at Fox News.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think that part of the story, the laptop is real. I thought that from day one. But the way that it entered the bloodstream of the American media was not real. So I just want to ask you point blank.
It was totally real. It entered the bloodstream without the involvement of Yaakov Applebaum. Yaakov Applebaum was doing his blog posts on the Illustrated Primer separate and apart from the New York Post story on the morning of October 14th, 2020.
Did you drop off laptops?
No, and this is the thing that
That's lie. Lie number 31, and we're in minute 50. That's lie number 1. He did drop off 3 laptops. Our book goes through it. There's his signature. Verified by Wayne Barnes. He wrote a whole report on it. Footnote 252.
Said over and over again. I have literally zero recollection or memory of ever dropping off a laptop at John Paul McIsaac's. No. The answer is no.
The answer is no. 31.
And John Paul McIsaac.
Wild.
So John Paul McIsaac, who's legally blind,
Yes.
who on the day when the laptop became public, sat outside of his shop.
He wasn't outside of his shop. He was in his shop with the Daily Beast and everybody else. And I have the audio of that, and we went through that.
Gave an interview and flat out says that he doesn't remember seeing me. He couldn't.
That's not what he said. He said when Hunter came in on Friday, he didn't know who it was because he wasn't attuned to who Hunter Biden was. The famous people were Joe and Bo. But he had a Bo Biden Foundation sticker, Bo Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children sticker on his laptop. Hilarious stuff.
Identify me. And also that his security cameras...
They weren't his security cameras. False statement number 32. We're 32 in. That's the number, guys. 32 in. He Trolley Square Strip Mall, he didn't control the security cameras. It was in the possession of the landlord. So we didn't have control over that.
He has. Don't have any...
That was the first thing I asked for when I was in the White House and heard about this all. When I was reading the New York Post story in October. I first was able to see a copy of it through Rudy's people in October of 2020, but I didn't get the copy. I just looked through it.
Footage from that time. And so regardless of anything, just this. The laptop, according to Lev Parnas, under oath in his testimony.
False statement number 33. Lev Parnas is a convicted fraudster and crook. So the fact that he said this under oath means nothing to us. Meaning, J.P. McIsaac swears under oath that this occurred, that is Hunter's signature. And so we're either believing the guy who was directly involved or a third party who had nothing to do with the Delaware repair shop, who's a convicted fraudster, saying he said this under oath. Tony Bobulinski was under oath. All these people were under oath. It means nothing.
Before the House Oversight Committee was being sought by Rudy Giuliani.
JP, he's conflating two different lines of effort. Rudy Giuliani did not even know that J.P. McIsaac existed in 2019. So he's getting the dates wrong completely on purpose to conflate the issue. What he's going to do is try to throw a bunch of balls in the air and say, look at all these balls in the air, and because all these balls are in the air, therefore we don't know what's true or not.
In Ukraine, all the way back in 2018. And so Rudy Giuliani is working with a guy named Andrei Derkach, who was a MP in Ukraine and a known Russian GRU agent. So Rudy goes over there and basically takes his dossier and receives information that Hunter Biden's hard drive, not laptop, is for sale.
Again, he's conflating the JP device that was taken under grand jury subpoena by the FBI, which you can see right here. Where's the subpoena at? There it is. December 9th, 2019. He's conflating that. So that's the 35th false statement or lie. We're at 35. And there's a ridiculous merchant woman, Leslie Frieder Wolf.
And the person that they can go to is this other Ukrainian Russian oligarch who is living in Austria.
He's talking about Dmitry Firtash or some guy. These are his favorite boogeymen who have nothing to do with J.P. McIsaac.
Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman were getting on the plane before they were arrested.
So how did
Before John Paul McIsaac was ever a twinkle in anybody's eye.
I believe that. The story, that was always the weak part of the story. Like, he drops off laptops.
Even John Paul...
How is that a weak part of the story? He was on crack. Whether he recalls or not is absolutely irrelevant.
McIsaac, okay? There is no such thing as a laptop. The laptop.
Yes, there is. The laptop was in. That's false statement number 36. The laptop was entered as an exhibit in his criminal trial. We're going to go to that. I'll show you the exact exhibit, guys. This is all from the iPhone backup that was on the laptop. But the exhibit back here, there it is. I was on the page to begin with. That exhibit Exhibit 40, Government Exhibit 40, was sent Wednesday, April 17th, 2019. So the fact that he recalled, Hunter was at a cigar shop, there are bank statements that, and Miranda Devine talked about this in her op-ed from yesterday, the New York Post. There's bank statements placing him in the neighborhood at this time. So his idea of relying on the security footage, irrelevant. We can place him there.
there is no such thing as a laptop. The laptop that he eventually turns over a year later, 18 months later, to the FBI.
It's not a year later. It was 6 months later. False statement number 37. We're at 37. The number is 37.
The thing that is distributed and disseminated, that John Paul McIsaac claims that he got off of a device, was a hard drive. And that hard drive had a limited amount of information. A limited amount of like gigabytes. I don't know the difference between a gigabyte and a whatever.
Of course he doesn't. He's completely lazy.
That goes into the hands. He somehow can't find anybody. You can't throw a stone in Trolley Square without hitting someone that knows me personally.
Right.
And he knows that. He's lived there his whole life. Instead, what he finds through this guy Applebaum,
he didn't find him through Applebaum. That's false statement number 38. He saw Rudy talking about Joe Biden's corruption. And remember, J.P. McIsaac, in our massive timeline, reached out to multiple members of Congress at this point. He went to the FBI, his father went to the FBI, and sent faxes to Ron Johnson and those people, and Lindsey Graham. His uncle tried to get in touch with people too. And then only then, August 28th, did he send the hard drive to Robert Costello. We have an exact timeline. So when I say he's made 38 lies or false statements, it's not just that I'm saying this. It's documented in the book.
Is Rudy Giuliani's lawyer, Bob Costello. He turns over this hard...
Yakov Applebaum came in later with the help of Larry Johnson, who's another schmuck that we cite at the very end of these. We have basically a list of schmucks at the end of our book. Larry Johnson cited there, Brian Della Rocca, the attorney for the shop owner who we loathe, who doesn't represent him anymore, and Yakov Applebaum. So, but what they're doing is conflating these people. They're saying that because Yakov Applebaum is a schmuck, therefore the story from John Paul McIsaac can't be believed. That's sophistry. It's horse shit. We have the documentation to prove it. We're sitting at 38.
Drive. The hard drive becomes the platform from which all of the other stolen information from, which by the
Stolen. 39. No evidence for this. Complete lie. Just making up out of thin air. Nobody will challenge him on this to his face. Completely pathetic. We're at 39.
Every single forensic expert has made it clear is that there's no possible way all of the information that was eventually labeled as my laptop came from one laptop.
False statement number 40. He's saying that was labeled. Who's doing the labeling? When are they doing the labeling? It's not from our book. We've already refuted the bullshit from Jack Maxey saying he found 250 extra gigabytes. What he's doing is he doesn't want you to read the book. That's the goal of this. Now, think about how he's talking about Trump being audacious. Think about how audacious you have to do a discussion like this and know that there's a book out there, because it was entered as an exhibit in his child support case, in the federal case with us, and in criminal cases. Portions of this book have been exhibits in criminal cases in the Northern District of Texas and other places in state court.
It's like it's way too large.
Came off the cloud.
Came off the cloud. No evidence of that. Zero evidence of what's in our book is in the cloud. It was on his laptop, and the copy of that laptop was put on a hard drive, which I got a copy of through Rudy's people. The chain of custody is in our book. I'm trying to find it. We talk about Miles Guo and why none of what he said was used in our dossier. None of it. There's a chain of custody, page 574.
Exactly. They hacked my cloud.
They hacked my cloud. No evidence of that. 42.
I read about this in this book.
One.
So on Substack, I'm like laying all of this out.
This out.
And there's a whole...
No, this is what laying it out looks like. Diagrams, etc. His is AI-produced slop that people are stupid enough to pay for on Substack.
The NDI, the whole thing about... There's these different silos. There's the Netanyahu silo, the Israeli side. There is a Russian-Ukrainian side of it. And then there are the U.S. actors that include Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, Miles Gao, and a whole bunch of, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman and all of these guys.
Well, once the material starts circulating, the data from the cloud,
yeah,
all kinds of people get involved and they're shopping it for different reasons. And I agree.
Yes. And so, but my point is,
who stole it?
Well, from the cloud?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You have as good a guess as mine in terms of actually.
That's not what he said in our lawsuit. He said we did. Now, obviously we didn't, but that's a false statement. Number 43.
Who was the original hacker of that information? Who has the capacity to be able to do it? And so, I have.
But you don't have evidence.
I don't have a digital forensic.
False statement number 44. Because why is this a false statement here? Because he swore under oath that he did in his lawsuit against us. All of the lawyers involved in that should lose their bar license.
Evidence that
we're
it
at
was hacked by
44.
this person or this entity or this organization.
He said we did. 45.
Or that it was the GRU, or that it was, or that it was some kid in his basement, and figured it out. But here's the point. Overall, here's the thing: is I get caught in these conversations about all of this. The reality is,
get caught. He willingly went to a makeshift studio in Maine. He didn't get caught in this conversation. He willingly interjected himself into it.
This, of what was distributed that was authentic, it's all mine. All those emails.
Yeah, I got it.
And you know what? Not a single one of them proves of any criminality of my father whatsoever.
47. Let's talk about Hunter paying for things from his father, which then don't end up on his financial disclosure report. Where's the first crime from Joe? Joe and Tony Blinken? Joe and John Flynn? This Hunter being copied on call notes with Poroshenko? Here's Joe joining a call with Carlos Slim and Jimmy Biden. Along with conspiring to violate lobbying laws, Cooper organized meetings for Hunter's foreign principals, the founders of a Mexican airline, with Joe. Here it is. This is one of my favorite pages in the whole dossier. Page 188. Hunter worked with Joe's assistant, Kathy Chung, to arrange a private powwow between Carlos Slim, one of the richest men in the world at the time, and still is, and Joe for 10/30/2015. Just months before the meeting, Joe's brother, Jimmy, sent Hunter a characteristically frantic and air-ridden email about Slim. Have a very real deal with Pemex, state-owned oil company in Mexico. Carlos Slim, need financing literally for a few days to a week. Have the seller and buyer major being delivered from it's so many typos. Jimmy's such a joke that he can't even write. So what does this mean? This means Kathy Chung is asking for dates that Joe can join a call to discuss a business deal with Hunter and his uncle Jimmy. That's a violation of 18 U.S.C. 219, which Bob Menendez just got convicted for and is in the clink right now for.
Of any way in which I ever sent an email saying, hey, Dad, I need you to get this done on behalf of a client of mine. Now, I think that's dispositive.
That's not dispositive at all. False statement number 48, we have the email right here.
And I challenge anybody, because it's all out there.
It's not all out there. There's stuff that he deleted that we don't have access to. I challenge anybody. Okay, I literally accepted his challenge and showed him the exact email that I'm alluding to and the exact statute violations, which district he would have been charged in if we had a just system in the United States, and who was involved. Kathy Chung, you'll recall that name. She was implicated in the classified docs fiasco.
Entire digital footprint. And I'm not just talking about my emails. I'm talking about our 20 years of emails.
Not 20 years of emails. False statement number 50. It's going to end up nice where there's going to be almost exactly 100.
I'm talking about 20 years of text messages.
Not 20 years of text messages. At the very most, there were 3 years of text messages. At the very most. We think it's somewhere around 18 months.
I'm talking about erased voicemails.
There were no erased voicemails. There were only voicemails that were on his iPhone at the time that it was backed up. That's false statement number 51.
Like deleted voicemails.
False statement number 52. False statement number 53. There were no deleted voicemails or deleted photographs. iMazing doesn't have that capability.
Photographs.
They don't actually delete, is what you're saying.
They clearly don't. I mean, voicemails. from my dad to me. But that's not the only voicemail that was out there. But not a single one of them in which I say, hey, when my dad is in office or in power as vice president or president, in which I say, hey, Dad, I need you to do this for me. Or even contacting one of his staffers. So
he contacted Anthony Blinken, false statement number 54. We just showed you that with Sally Painter and Karen Tramontano. We're at 54, guys.
Either I'm incredibly good at, in active addiction as a crack addict, or it doesn't exist. It truly...
Incredibly good. All you had to do was connect people. You didn't actually have to do much work. That's what's pathetic about the corruption, is you weren't even working hard. We maintain this throughout the dossier. That's why a sophisticated beatdown like this has to occur, because nobody else is doing it.
Literally doesn't exist. The entire narrative of the Biden crime family, I mean, I literally, unlike anybody else, is like, I say to everybody, okay, show me your phone, because I showed you mine, and you didn't find a goddamn thing.
We did find a GD thing. False statement number 55.
Not one thing. Every investigative body in the United States of America has investigated me for over 10 years.
He got pardoned for this. False statement number 56.
At that point. And not one single thing of criminal activity other than use of drugs and all of the things that are associated with addiction is proved by the laptop.
So is the world getting more stable or less stable? That's a rhetorical question. We're not in charge. Easy. You know what? I from earlier old relative treasuries of your digital life were in circulation.
That day, the
circulation were out that the content.
Battalion
when did you find out that the contents of your digital life were in circulation?
Contents of your digital life. Well, at least he didn't say that Hunter owned them, because he didn't.
Day that the New York Post released it.
You had no idea?
No idea. None.
What were you doing that day? How'd you find out?
So it was like 2 weeks before the election, right? October.
So up until the day you had no clue, because the FBI had the material.
That's false. George Masiris, his attorney, called John Paul on the phone, then emailed him the night before the New York Post story. This is 6:58 p.m. on October 13th. John Paul, thank you for speaking with me tonight. As I indicated, I'm a lawyer for Hunter Biden. I appreciate you reviewing your records on this matter. So he knew this is the lie. False statement number 56. He said, when did he find out? I'm going to go back just a little bit.
Released it.
You had no idea?
No idea.
In circulation.
That day that the New York Post released
That's
it.
a false. So we're at 57 now.
None.
What were you doing that day? How'd you find out?
So it was like 2 weeks before the election, right? October.
So up until the day you had no clue, because the FBI had the material.
None. No clue. Zero.
I'm sorry, I stepped on your answers. What were you doing that day when you found out?
I was with Melissa, and Bo was, about 6 months old, and a friend of ours, we were in LA, and a friend of ours said, hey, come out to Palm Springs. I got a Airbnb on like a golf course there, and it's really cool. You guys never been out there, and it's like we're in the home stretch now. It's like, I have survived because even before the laptop, remember, they were beating the shit out of me. That's when Donald Trump was doing the Where's Hunter thing. I didn't have any security like I don't have today, but I didn't have then. It was just me and Melissa and a baby. And anytime we went outside the house, is like people would follow us everywhere, and not just to follow us, but to harass us.
It's just pathetic how this guy is just woe is me. Your dad was the leading contender for the Democrats. Get used to it.
And because Donald
and
Trump,
there's no evidence that they were harassed. People following you.
Was going to his rallies, and his big line was, and they were selling shirts, Where's Hunter? So everybody felt it was incumbent upon them, if they supported Trump and MAGA, to find Hunter, to go and find Where's Hunter. And so we drive out to Palm Springs, and we get there, and we unpack, put my bag in my room, and there's like a little plunge pool out at the back of this little house, and I get a call, and it's a friend of mine who was also my lawyer at the time.
George Masiris.
And he said, some guy saying, the New York Post is saying somebody has your laptop? And it took me years to piece it all together.
He didn't piece it all together because he's still spewing these bullshit lies today.
And so one of the things that I've done over the course of the last 7 years, other than paint, which became literally I've always painted, but it was literally the thing that saved my life. It just allowed me to focus and occupy my hands in a productive way in which I felt that I was creating, and also allowed me to get out of myself and not be consumed by the shame and of my addiction.
If he had shame, he wouldn't be lying like this. He's just regretful that it got exposed. He doesn't actually feel shame. We're trying to find that shame. If he had shame, he would shut up.
And all the failings that I perceived in myself at that moment in time, which in early addiction, and not just through your own experience, but through the experience of watching others, is a really tenuous time. And and I've done a lot of writing, and it took me a long time to figure this out.
He's not figured it out. 58 false statement and lies. He's done anything but figure this out because we wrote the book on it. He's creating a counter narrative with Kevin Morris for their bullshit documentary.
What happened? How did this? Who was involved? And there's all of these names, and there's like a list of 20 Russian names and
list of 20 Russian names. False statement number 59. He's listed Putin, but Durkash and all these people are Ukrainians. So we're waiting for those 20 names. That's false statement number 20. False statement number 59 for the waiting regarding the 20 names.
All of this stuff, and so I decided on Substack. What I could do is I could basically do the first draft of that and get the audience potentially to participate and give me more information. So I'm doing that on Substack now. And the thing about it is this:
hilarious.
Is that it was a complete and utter surprise to me. I was, a little over a year into my recovery. I kind of made it through the like what I thought that was the worst of it, and then we were just literally thrown in the middle of it. And the worst thing happened is that because they were nude pictures, and this is the only reason that Twitter took them down.
60. It wasn't the only reason, and very few people posted the nude photos. They posted blurred out images. So that's false statement number 60. We're almost at the middle way, and there's 60 verifiable lies or false statements. You can track them all. You can follow along with me. 60 verifiable false statements or lies.
And Facebook took them down, is they violated their own internal rules as it relates to revenge porn. You're not allowed to publish nude photograph of anyone without their consent.
It's not the only reason. That's what's false about this. He's talking about terms of service. No, we have internal logs from the FBI pressuring and asking Twitter, saying that this is Russian disinformation.
For whatever reason. And so that's why on the front page of the New York Post and the story associated on the digital with all of the links were like a ton of nude photos with me.
There weren't a ton of nude photos. False statement, lie number 61. New York Post has never posted a nude photo of him. They blurred out everything. So this guy's just constantly lying. And Tucker's just lapping it up like a hungry dog.
Me. I'm just barely blurred out of the women that were in it. All consensual, legal, all those things. But of course, they don't make that point. And that's why they took it down. But then that became the story.
That's another false statement. Hunter uploaded some of this pornography to sites without the girl's consent. We have him on those statute violations as well. Non-consensual pornography, meaning it's not just that he took it and kept it in his phone. He uploaded it to Pornhub.
The suppression and this idea that 40 former intelligence officers said it had all the hallmarks of a...
False statement. There were more than 40. There was at least 60. 9 were unnamed. 51 were named. We're the first people to track them all down. We were the first people to get all their pictures. See, we cover up all his genitalia. We're kind people. When we're Christians, we're not into distributing pornography. So there's these are the pictures of the folks, men, women, a lot of Jews, a lot of whites.
Disinformation campaign. No one in that 40, regardless of what you think of them. Okay?
Not much.
Yeah, I know you don't, but no one in that 40 ever said that the laptop wasn't real. But that's what everybody on the right decided to say.
First of all, the intel people are the most dishonest people in our society.
By the way, I'm not going to argue on behalf of anybody. All I know is let's just stick to me.
I'm just saying, the point of that statement was to suggest that the contents were not real.
Well, you may think that, but it definitely did not say that. And all I know is this.
I'm going to go to the statement. That if the emails are genuine or not, and we do not have evidence of Russian involvement. Just that our experience makes us... So they said they're deeply suspicious, but they don't have evidence. We wrote this. The statement below should stand as a solemn monument of the harm which the U.S. intelligence agencies and their current and former officials have done to the American Republic and her future.
And it became completely out of my control. So therefore, now I was not arguing about what was on it. Remember what Rudy Giuliani did.
Completely out of my control. False statement number 61, by omission. He said that he had nothing to do with it. Well, it's by omission and commission. His father's campaign, Anthony Blinken, got Mike Morrell, who is right here, to get the letter going. So he did have something to do with it, because he was talking to Anthony Blinken.
He went to the literally the courthouse steps in Newcastle County with Bernie Carrick, and he held a laptop, which there's no existing laptop. He had taken a hard drive or thumb drive and put it and pretended like there was a laptop. And the one thing he said was, "This contains images of minor children," which bullshit. I mean, an absolute, complete, and utter effing lie.
There are lots of pictures of minor children. The question is whether they're of a sexual nature or not, and we don't answer that question. A court will have to do it. But what I do know is that his sister-in-law didn't want him around his niece because she said that she was, quote, smoking crack. He was, quote, smoking crack and walking around naked. And we talked about this 28 CFR 75, which is called the DOST test. And these are the photos that were on the device. We obviously cover everything, but these are of his underage niece, and they were on the device, so he's lying. So we're at false statement number 62. Now, we didn't say that Hunter took these or that Hunter masturbated to them, and we didn't say that Hunter had intercourse with his underage niece, but he definitely did do these things.
And that's what he did. Because,
meaning these things, I mean, he definitely was accused by his sister-in-law of being sexually inappropriate with his niece.
But it didn't.
And Rudy and Carrick weren't precise enough about this.
Have on it. It had no evidence, and they had it for over a year at this point. It had no evidence of anything.
They didn't have it as, that's false statement number 63. Rudy and Bernie just got it at the very most 6 weeks before that.
Other than, I was a drug user. But the problem was, and not only
that's false statement number 64. We had a lot more evidence that he was just a drug user. We had evidence that he was a money launderer, that he was a FARA violator, that he was an unregistered agent of a foreign principal, that he was he committed lobbying violations. He was an illegal, unregistered lobbyist. That's what the evidence is for, and a lot of other stuff.
Crack addict. And the problem is that I had gone about 9 months before, and I had done an interview with the New Yorker. And I admitted everything as it relates to my addiction.
He didn't admit everything as it related to his addiction. He didn't talk about his daughter in Arkansas. It's false statement number 65. Adam Intus is one of the water carriers for the D.C. swamp.
Probably one of the smartest decisions I made, not in conjunction with anybody, but literally me and Melissa sitting there. And I said, I'm gonna tell this guy everything.
He didn't tell him everything. False statement number 66. Lie number 66.
Yes, I can't have this hanging out there as my dad moves through a presidential campaign, and let the chips fall where they may. And it totally scooped them. And so what they had to do is create another narrative around it that is evidence of corruption. So when anybody says Hunter Biden, what's your first thought? Laptop.
Can I just say one thing though? That this is what I experienced during that time. The allegation that there was abuse of minors proven on the laptop that came from the Israelis. I'm just telling you that they came to me with that. So
they didn't. Yakov Applebaum. All he did was compile the messages that were from Hallie about him. About her not wanting him to be around Natalie. That didn't come from anywhere. That came from the laptop. So it's another false statement by Hunter. See, this is him recounting the thing to my dad. She tells people, I'm getting off sexually with Natalie, that then there is no family and there never will be. That I'm a danger and sexually taboo to Natalie. That's him talking to his own father. This is how we put it on page 381. Later that day, Hunter ratcheted up the stakes. Hallie was, quote, dropping the kids off and going to see Joe at the lake. If Joe, quote, allowed her to make one accusation about Hunter, then Hunter would never step foot in Delaware again. Evidently, Hallie was, quote, telling people that Hunter was, quote, getting off sexually with her daughter and that he, quote, posed a danger sexually to Natalie.
Know that. And one of the things that enraged me about the statement from those sleazy intel guys is that they blame the Russians for it. Now, maybe the Russians had a hand in it, but it was the Israelis who were pushing that. Fact. I mean, literally to me.
Yeah.
So,
and you've gone through it.
But
it was one Israeli, and that he didn't push anything other than what the laptop exposed. This is the sophistry that I'm talking about.
Is there anything? I want to clear with your entire, not a single thing in anything that is in any way true about that.
No, that's false statement number 67. Your own sister-in-law accused you of it. Who you got addicted to crack. She didn't want you around her daughter.
Well, that's such a serious crime that I think it's just common sense that if there was evidence of that.
You think that it's common sense? But I'll tell you what, about 40 million people on X don't think that. I mean, it's like
there was an abuse of minors in there. If there was evidence,
you know how many people call me a pedophile to this day? Anyway, I'll spare you.
I don't call you a pedophile. You know what I do? I show people the text that your own sister-in-law sent, and that you were complaining to other people in your family about those messages. That's what I do. I reveal the truth.
But I agree with you. That's exactly right. And it's
But they were pushing that so hard, and all the intel guys were like, "Oh, it's Russia." It's like, you lie, because they called me. I sent one of my producers out to go meet with one of guy connected to Netanyahu.
I don't know that Yakov is connected to Netanyahu. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, but I just think he's a former IDF soldier who lives in Suffolk County, who's a liar. So none of our report is based on Yakov at all. At all. Yakov is just like me in that he got a copy of it. It didn't come to JP from Yakov.
One of guy connected to Netanyahu, they were behind that, and I felt that everybody in DC knew that, but there was so much pressure never to criticize Israel in any way that they were just like, "Oh, it's the Russians. Oh, it's the Russians. They're the ones penetrating our political system." It's like, you lie. Everyone knows what's actually happening. This was my perspective, and it drove me insane. And by the way, I didn't say that on Fox News. I'll admit it. I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't. You're right. I just want to say I was part of the problem also, but I knew it.
But that's the thing, Tucker.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're here now.
Yeah. No, I didn't say it was the Israelis.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. But we're here now.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, just on a purely selfish basis for me, is that I don't know how you could possibly have thought that of me. And by not saying it, I thought that you thought that of me. I mean, it's like I am. It is.
Thought that the child molestation thing
or whatever. Yeah, all the stuff that they were saying, or any of it. You know what I mean? Like
Well, people addicted to drugs, especially cocaine, I know for a fact, get pretty dark. That's just a fact. They do. They definitely do. And
oh yeah.
And the cocaine
By
thing.
Wait, it's all there.
No, I guess
you can watch it all.
I guess I don't need to tell you that.
You can see them.
But I've seen it. You're not the only person I've seen this.
Exactly. But there's a big
screws
difference.
Up your sex thing.
Yeah, there's a big difference between that and the reality of what's out there, which is the worst thing that you can possibly say about any. And that's my point. My point is that I thought I was over it. I was in Palm Springs. I was there for about 3 hours. It was the first time that Melissa and I had gone away. Because remember, we're still in that kind of COVID period and so we're out there and I get this call and it just like your whole world kind of just like this kind of void opens up and you just like think that you're about to get sucked into it. Because what's the worst thing that you could ever say about someone, in my opinion, is the reality that you're, and that's what Rudy Giuliani was saying. And were
you ever close to going back on drugs during this period?
No. And because I knew this, is that I don't want to give people the impression that it's not available to them, but it was a miracle. The miracle of my life at that moment, despite that, despite all of these consequences, like just not I mean, landing like nuclear bombs in my life, is that I was in a better place and continue to be in a better place than I've ever been in my life. So it's like, I've been stripped to the bone. There's no, like, you have to, the entirety of my ego was destroyed. Like all of those things that you protect that out of fear. Well, yes. You don't realize that they're out of fear, but almost all of them are out of fear. It's right. Like what you're talking about, the vanity.
Yeah.
Of believing that you could change the course of the administration of history, of being there, and that you could overlook all of the things that you know of him in order to save the world. Like, that's a beautiful thing to hear someone admit to being that introspective, to be able to do that. In the same way, I was so emasculated that I had to make a decision to live or die. And in the living, I had to live in that emasculation, that completely stripping of ego. And it wasn't instant, and it wasn't like
He didn't completely strip his ego. False statement number 68. He still thinks that he was completely qualified to serve on Burisma's board, which was a complete joke. Just because he got a bunch of board seats because of his daddy's position doesn't mean anything.
Didn't think like the sun would ever come up, which I kind of felt.
Yeah.
But then Bowie woke up, and I was a little 9-month-old or 6-month-old at the time. And I look at this amazingly magnificent woman that has saved me, that is lying there. And I thought, you know what? I have to choose to live. Like I want this life. I want this love. I don't want to be afraid. I'm going to choose to live. And then it just became a matter of moment by moment having to make that choice at the beginning.
How did you meet your wife and get sober?
I know, it's a crazy story.
Let's stop there. We'll come back for part 2. 69 lies told in the first hour and 12 minutes.
I know, it's a crazy story. And I wrote about it. And I said that if any of my children came to me and told me this story, I would probably have them committed. But it was truly love at first sight. A long story that I've written about, but and I was in active addiction and staying at a hotel, and
Where?
The Petit Hermitage in West Hollywood at the time. Which is
I know
a
well.
neat hotel, yeah. And I was at the pool. I got kicked out the next day, but
On the roof.
on the roof. And this these two people sat down next to me where I was alone. I was reading a book, and they struck up a conversation as the pool kind of filled up during the day. And at one point, they turned to each other. No, I never met them before. I said, "You have to meet our friend Melissa." And I said, "Sure." And I had no intention of meeting anyone. I'd gone to LA basically to choose the coward's way out of suicide, which was I knew that the drugs and the drinking would eventually take me, and I'd broken all contact with anyone that cared for me or loved me, and they called every day, and I just
Next one will be 70.
now, and I'm sitting there, and it was an incredibly dark moment in my life, and the darkest. And for some reason, I did this thing. I said, yeah, just give me your number. I'll call. Because they insisted that I call this woman. And I said, I can remember any number. If you tell me a number, I can remember it. And of course, I can't remember a number. But it was my way of getting out of the situation. And I left my book there. So like 2 hours later, I came back to pick up my book on the chaise lounge. I looked at it, and the woman said, "What's the number?" And I said, and she said, "I knew you were lying." And she had a pen in her hand, and she wrote it on my hand. And that night, I was taking a shower, and I didn't.
Look how lying comes so easy to him.
9 o'clock at night and 2:30 in the morning. I literally was staying up 10 days at a time. I mean, it was awful. And I'm about to wash this off my hand. I think I should probably really call this woman. So I texted that number, and I said, "Hey, your friends gave me your number. Would you like to get a drink?" And
At 2:30 in the morning?
2:30 in the morning. And the response I got back was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, "Who the F is this? And it's 2:30 in the morning. No." And for some reason, in the morning, I felt like that's rude to do to a woman. Like, it's not just like funny, like you made a mistake, or like that was really rude. And I don't know where that it came from in me. The feeling that I needed to apologize and say
I don't know where the politeness came from in me.
I didn't realize the time. And she had no idea who I was. I mean, none. And except for her friends met this guy at a pool. And so she says that
we still don't know who these friends are, by the way. And we have no way to verify the veracity of this tale.
Said, "You really need to go meet him." And she said she'd be over for lunch, and then it was...
Meaning, he dropped off the laptop April 12th, 2019. This would have been in May of 2019, right? So that it cuts off.
O'clock, and then it was 2 o'clock, and then it was, she'd be there in half an hour, and then it was 4 o'clock, and then it was 6. And finally, sometime...
Did you know anything about this one?
What? Did you nothing. Literally nothing.
Just her first name?
Yeah, and that's it. Nothing. Not a picture, not anything. And I walk up, and now I'm over at the Sunset Marquis, which is up the hill, because every hotel I'd say, I didn't do anything wrong. It was just like the cast of characters that would be in and out of my room. They decided that,
I didn't do anything wrong other than have all my crack cocaine paraphernalia strewn about the room. And the government put pictures of this in his case in Delaware. So he did do stuff wrong. He was trashing the room, just like he did to his landlord, the Jewish founder of the Sweet Greens. He'd trash his places.
In the morning, "Mr. Biden, we don't have availability. The hotel looks empty to me." Yeah, well,
there's another of those Amadeus laughs.
To this other hotel, and this is when I still had a little bit of money to be able to pay hotel bills, and I wasn't in the Super 8. But I walk up, and there's this outdoor seating area, and I see this woman, and she was wearing a denim shirt, just like this. And I walk up to the table, and I know this sounds melodramatic and like I'm making it up, but I looked in her eyes. And I saw eyes that saw me. And I said, "I know that this sounds crazy, but I'm in love with you."
That's the first thing you said to a woman you never met before?
The first thing. And again, I know it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
And the craziest part is, though, the miracle of it is that she didn't run. She saw through me. I mean, she saw not through me. She saw me. And within 3 hours, I had told her everything that I had not told the people that tried to love me back into existence for the previous 2 years. She literally was. I said, about 2 hours in, I said, I'm addicted to crack cocaine. Like I'm killing myself. She said, "That ends today." And it didn't end that day. It ended. The crack ended within a week, and then the alcohol. And the alcohol ended within 20 days. And tapering. In June, I count June 1st as my sobriety date. And, from that moment I said that to her, we were married 10 days later.
That's like one of the craziest stories I've ever heard in my life.
And it remains a miracle. My daughters, and there's nothing that I love more in the world than them. And
Not true. He hasn't even seen one of his daughters. Statement number 70. Just said that he loves nothing more than his daughters. He has never met one of his daughters in person.
And they spent, I always say the greatest sin of my addiction was my absence from my children. As you know, the one thing about my dad
We're at
always taught
70.
me about, is that being available is, and during a time in their life when they loved their Uncle Bo. They loved their Uncle Bo as much as I loved them. And he was like a second father to them. And in his, and after Bo died, and then they lost me for a period of time. And there's enormous trauma in that. And my point about talking about the girls is that, like, I don't, like, my father, my family, my sister, my uncle, my aunt, my Valerie, my mom, you know, they all tried to save me. I mean, I have the most incredible family in the world. But it took a stranger to see.
That's false statement. Number 71. This is what Hunter really thinks of his family. He called them the, quote, there it is, April 13th, 2018. He calls the Bidens, and this is in iMessage to his first cousin Missy, the daughter of Valerie. He called the Bidens, quote, the biggest gossip mill of a family on the East Coast. So that's false statement, lie, number 71.
The love left in me. And I don't know why, but it to me, and I love to think of it this way, by the way, that it was a miracle, that there was something divine about it. And I'm a firm believer in that, in that faith, that sometimes the things that we cannot explain are God acting in our life in a way in which it might as well.
Again, he thinks God is a figment of the imagination of the collective frightened.
That it tried to get to us in every other way possible, and then finally they have to smack you over the head with,
yes,
with a hammer.
I believe that so strongly. That is true. It's a fact.
Yeah. And for me, that is the truth about all of this, is that I think that I've been given a gift. And the gift of my addiction that brought me to that point where it could totally break me. Not for me to go out and aggrandize myself in a way in which I tell a different story than what actually happened.
That's exactly what he's doing. False statement number 72, lie number 72. He's telling a story that is completely different. I'm almost done with my pages. I should have. You can tell that as my cortisol levels have risen, the size of my numbers have risen. But we're at false statement, lie 72. He's telling a story that is fictional, as we mentioned. He told a laptop story that was fictional, a chain of custody that was fictional. What was on the device in his mind was completely different than what's actually on the device.
That's why I hate talking about the laptop or this.
He hates talking about it because he can't remember what he says each time. Each time he retells this, it's a different lie, and that's very, very difficult for sociopaths to remember all the lies one tells.
By defending myself, but the story that I get to tell is that there is such a thing as redemption, and that's not the outward redemption. This is not like this is the inward, that you can find the person that is worthy of love.
At 72,
all of the things and all of the mistakes that I made in my life, and when I don't mean all of the narrative that has been out there, but the mistakes that I've made in my life in terms of relationships, in terms of
the narrative,
have all been based in fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of not living up to some expectation, fear of being found out, fear of being embarrassed. I mean, everything from
he was found out
as like, fear of asking the girl to dance.
Yeah.
And I drank over that, and I used over that, or fear of of having to come to terms with the trauma of losing my mother and my sister, or facing it in any way, or fear of being found out that that I'm not really as good as I think that I am, that I am that person that people want to view as the privileged fail son that's never done anything with his life.
That's true.
And all of that fear is evaporated. I'm not without fear. But in a very different way. And there's no way that I could have gotten here without having gone through that. And that's the promise of at least not picking up a drink or drug today, is that maybe I can get there. I was saying to somebody, I was talking before, I don't think that there's anything that has more guidance in my life than the Serenity Prayer. Is being able to really truly understand the things that you can change.
False statement number 73. This is bordering on lies, because remember what he said to his best friend and lawyer, George Masiris. He thinks God is a figment of the imagination of the collective frightened, and then he's going to quote some Serenity Prayer.
Change as compared to the things that you have no control over.
Yes.
And that's not about feeling powerless. But for instance, what it made me think of is what you just said.
Yeah, I know. I agree completely.
And you have
it's vanity to think that you can change certain, like you're in charge of the world now, you're God. I mean, no, you're not.
Yeah. And there's that incredible, and I don't know if it's apocryphal or if it's true.
I love this quote because it's going to be the false statement number 74.
Quote from Mother Teresa, in which she says, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Exactly. Hunter's never seen his daughter. That's number 74. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Implying that all he needs to do is go love his family. Well, he hasn't loved his family. You can't love someone that you've never been around, willfully, that is. Never met his daughter. She's going to turn 8 in 2 weeks.
And in loving my family, what I also realized is
so I've listened to this now a couple times, but that's what I mean. And in loving my family, meaning if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And he just said, and I am loving my family.
Family is much larger than my my immediate blood, and beyond just my first circle of friends. My family is a group of people that are still sick and suffering, that are literally to step out that door, that feel that there is no hope and no way out for them, and that they are caught in a cycle of degradation and demoralization and violence because of the drug or the alcohol, which is the worst, in my opinion, worst drug that there is. That they're addicted to it. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, but it starts, in the immediate, and then hopefully it radiates out if it's done with sincerity and authenticity, and you're not living a double life, for whatever reason. You're not working on behalf of a corporate chill. You're not working on. I'm not pursuing a goal of which I'm a consultant in Washington D.C. and it was all bullshit. It was all bullshit. What was I adding to the conversation? What was I?
That's one of the first true things he said. It was all bullshit, man. But he doesn't say why it's bullshit. It's bullshit because it had nothing to do with his aptitude. He wasn't good at anything. It was just because his daddy had power.
To the discourse. What purpose was any of that at the time? I don't do that anymore, and that's why I'm an artist, and that's why I write.
He doesn't do it anymore because his laptop contents were released. If he could get away with it, he absolutely would. Although it was killing him inside because he knew that he just wanted to be a writer. But his daddy needed somebody in the family to be the bag man. He was the family bag man. That's one of the key theses. We don't have 95 like Luther, but that's one of the key theses of our book. He was the family bag man. Bo got to do what he wanted to do and serve in government and not make as much money. Hunter was the family vacuum cleaner, sucking up the dirty money for the Klan, for the Biden Klan. There's your Irish connection.
And that's why I'm speaking out. And that's why I work with an organization called Peak Path Health, which is a great rehab in
another
LA,
scam.
but I'm helping set up a foundation for them for aftercare. I work with an organization called Boston Universal, which does homeless prevention. And
this is with that portly attorney of his, Brian Sullivan, who we beat in court.
And tenants' rights advocacy in LA. And that's not to say, oh, I'm such a good guy. I mean, because I get paid and I enjoy the work, and I think that they're really good people. And I write a Substack because I hope to get paid. I hope people go read it so that I can make a living. I was telling you before, I really believe in cryptocurrency. I really believe in those things. I want to do something in that space. And, not because of any other thing than I believe in it, but you know what? I also want to make some money.
Yeah.
And that's my life now. I get to say that and say, but this is me. I'm not running for anything. You gave me a platform, I'm going to use it. And not only am I going to use it to benefit myself and my family, but hopefully benefit people along the way. And I would ask the same of you, which I think right now, and not this is like who am I to ask, is that I think that we have such an opportunity to find common ground, to do this a different way. You are, if not the most, in my estimation, the most talented communicator of your generation. And whatever.
Here's the buttering up. He did the same thing to Candace. He did the same thing to Sean Ryan. This is what Joe is actually good at. He learned this from his father. He's buttering up the interlocutor to make all the other bullshit more palatable to him.
Anybody has to say about you is that there is no doubt is that you are a incredibly effective communicator, as is Candace, by the way.
Yes.
And I think that you have an opportunity to, and this isn't like, train all, ammunition on the administrator. I'm saying the opportunity to find that, common purpose.
You wonder if it's in the
pie in the sky, dog shit, abstract, kumbaya stuff. Very Jesuit of him. That's very Jesuit speak. And I went to a Jesuit college like he did. It's all, so much of it is gobbledygook.
No, I strongly agree. I mean, we're here for a reason, and once you get out of debt, it's like, what's the point of accumulating money? I really feel that's...
And that's exactly the way I feel. Just get me out of the debt. And that's the other thing. People don't, like, oh, you're like, I mean, millions of dollars that I, law firms and others, and Yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah, you know about that.
yeah.
But I wonder if like nothing you have said, you grew up in a very famous political family. I know you grew up in Delaware, but your world revolved around Washington. You went to school there. You lived there.
Went to college there, yeah.
Yeah, went to college there. You know the political system really well. You've said nothing about it, basically. You haven't suggested a political solution to any of this. I don't think that's an accident, because I think there probably isn't a immediate, I mean, you can make things better in the margins, but like the problems that people face are mostly not political problems. They're right. So I think that we overstate the importance of like voting for this or that guy. I mean, to me, that's the lesson of Trump. Like, I campaigned for the guy. There are things about him I still like. I don't think he's like, he's complicated. Like everybody is complicated, but it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't matter that you voted for him. You got the same thing that you're going to get if you voted for Kamala Harris.
That's just so dishonest. Whatever flaws Trump has, and he has real ones, and his family, that doesn't compare. We would have still got into the Iranian quagmire with heels up Harris, and would have been insufferable left-wing woke bullshit alongside of it. It doesn't compare. It's just dishonest.
It's like that's my perspective on it.
Yeah.
And so what does that tell you? It tells you that you're putting your faith in the wrong thing, which is in a political system, whereas there's
I never put my faith in a political system or Trump. I saw the choice between two alternatives and picked the better one. It was very simple. He's the one emanatizing the eschaton, as somebody once said, right? He's trying to bring heaven to earth and realize and not putting people. The Lord tells us to not put our trust in princes. So really, this is an indictment of Hunter or of Tucker, and to the degree he's admitting that, I'm all for it.
And that begins with changing people's hearts. That's what I think.
Exactly. Because
changing people's hearts. Wow. I think this is just all PR for Hunter's documentary with Kevin Morris. So I hope that I counteract some of that faux heart changing with some truth serum of my own.
it comes from us.
We're at 74 for
there.
those tracking. 74 false statements and lies.
Exactly.
And it's here.
Yeah, we're the problem.
Yes.
Right. No,
I think that's the fifth Amadeus laugh. It's just, it drives me up a wall.
I've discovered that about myself.
And so all the people out there that have such a problem with me sitting down with you or sitting down with Candace and like,
I don't have a problem with anybody sitting down with anybody. What I have a problem with is lies and false statements. Lies and false statements. One of the things that somebody wrote to me on messaging app the other day is, I don't like him platforming somebody else. That's just bullshit. Jesus platformed a lot of sinners in his dialogues that were recorded in the Gospels. It's not about platforming. It's about putting out truth versus BS. If he had Hunter here and called him out on all the FAR violations, all the money laundering, everything else, this beatdown wouldn't be necessary. We should talk to any and all. I will stand in front of Abby Lowell and go through each and every single evil thing that he's done, provided that I get the opportunity to correct the falsehoods. That's what I'm about.
I'm not hard enough on you. You got to apologize for this, and you got to do this. It's like, you know what? F them. Here's my point. It starts with us. Like, I'm not going to ever change, Chuck. I can get into the whole debate about the Democratic Party and whether you're not going to label something a Democratic Socialist. This, you know what I think? I like people who believe in what they have a conviction.
Yeah.
And they and they're honest about it.
I totally agree.
Doesn't like me. Hunter hates me. Wife thinks I'm a Nazi. I have a very, very fervent, transparent conviction, and I'm totally honest about it. Been saying the same thing for years. Meaning that's the 75th false statement and lie he's made. That he cares about being honest and having convictions. No, he's a shitlib who gets his Jesuit faux theology and opposes anybody who calls out his lies.
I don't agree with everything that Zoran Hamdani does, but you know what? He has conviction, he has competence, and he balanced the budget. Crime is at a record low in New York right now, and regardless of what you think about him, is that so from a political perspective, I don't care if it's Zoran Hamdani or Thomas Massie, and I don't agree with 90% of the stuff I think I don't, but I don't think that matters in this moment in time. I don't think any of those labels matter in time. I want someone with the courage of their conviction, principles. That is, but it all starts here. All starts here, and everybody else can nitpick around whether all of the labels that we apply to each other and all of the vitriol. And there has to be, I think there needs to be accountability for the people that are literally robbing us effing blind. And I think there will be accountability for that. I think that, but my point
there was no accountability for Hunter. Hunter grifted and cheated the law all the time and got a largest federal pardon in U.S. history.
Is in this moment, can we not all see that we are about to reach a point in the evolution of humanity that is will be a larger step than in the entirety of the existence of this earth.
That's right.
And like, so what does all of it matter? If you have people that drive me crazy like Elon Musk, and every other person that has a hand in, which is a handful of them, in what's happening with AI right now, telling us in easily within the next 5 years, if they haven't already done it, that we're going to reach AGI. And if we reach AGI, then we're not more than a maximum of another 5 years, more likely 2 or 3 away from superintelligence. And once that happens, we literally have taken a step in the evolution of humanity and of humankind. And the largest singular step that will ever be taken in the exponential way in which things will advance from there is completely outside of our control. And the only thing that we can hope for...
This is not based in scripture, experience, wisdom, or anything. He's just shooting from the hip here. That's why I'm going through it at 1.5 speed, because it's literal bullshit, and it's spouting off on things that I don't have documentation for.
Have leaders that have humanity's best interest in mind, and I don't know if I shouldn't say I don't know. I do know. I think we have the exact wrong leadership at the moment.
Totally agree. Do you know anybody in your life who you talk to who's like very excited about AI? Because I don't really know anyone who's really for this. Where's the constituency for this? It seems like the population doesn't want it at all.
Yeah, well, I don't know why anyone would want want it in the way that it's being offered to us. Look, the thing I say is this: it's not theirs. What they're building is off the back of the output of all of humanity.
I agree.
It's ours. It belongs to me. It belongs to me just as much as it belongs to a Sam Bushman in the Kalahari. It belongs to us from the moment that there was a cave painting that was put into a digital database, and in a context to the poetry of Shakespeare, to the book that you wrote, to to my last podcast transcript. That is what is AI. It's all of ours. Every scientific discovery, every single public dollar, all of it we own it, and we somehow are going to make like 5 or 6 individuals in this country trillionaires by allowing them to literally rob us of that and make it theirs, and them decide. Like, do you trust Sam Altman to be to decide the fate of humanity?
Well, obviously not. But this is not intelligent of him to say this. Sam Altman's a freaking lizard person.
For that matter.
I've done thousands of interviews over 35 years, and I've never had the feeling of wanting to run out of a room more strongly than I had when I talked to Sam Altman. So he's out of 350 million Americans, he's probably 350 millionth of who I trust.
Yet
to control the future of humanity.
Yet here we are, right?
Yeah.
Yet here we are, and you know what we're doing is I'm supposed to hate Tucker Carlson because he's an anti-Semite and he's this. I know you're not an anti-Semite. I 100% know you're not an anti-Semite.
No.
Yeah, no. That's what my point being is that. No,
I would just say so.
My point being is that, like, if it's anti-Semitic to point out that Bibi Netanyahu is evil incarnate, then you know what? I don't know what to say to people anymore. I mean, all you have to do is just open your eyes. Just literally open your eyes, open your heart for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And realize,
it's such an obvious lie. It's like, who's even intimidated by that anymore?
My point is like, how is it possible that they're dividing us on things like that?
I agree.
And I can tell you how it's possible. It's the distraction that is being created by a handful of individuals and the people that work for them to keep us divided through our algorithm. And as much as you're not addicted to your phone because you're not on social media and things like that, the vast majority of us are.
So who is posting for Tucker if he's not on social media? He has all these accounts with millions of followers.
Myself included. Is everyone has a pocket full of heroin, and they access it literally 1,000 times a day.
So you're saying you got off crack, and more impressively, alcohol?
Yeah. No, I'm not that bad. All I'm saying
is
not
off your phone.
No, I am. I'm not nearly. I'm very wary.
Look at the synapse crashing. I can't even listen to him. He stutters so much, and I grew up with a stutter, so I know it. I mean, this is just his brain is fried.
Very wary of anything like that. But what I'm trying to say to people is that I'm no better than anybody else. Yeah. I look at my phone just as much as anybody else. I don't feel that it is necessarily a problem. But what I do find is, like, for instance, is that you gravitate towards the negative things people say about you.
Yes.
Way more than you ever gravitate to the beautiful things that people say about me.
That is so true.
So I'm on X, and the amazing thing is that I go on X, and I start talking about addiction, but I also start talking about the absurdity of the moment that we live in, and some of the players that are that are outsized characters in this morality tale we're living through, and there's these beautiful messages from people about their own struggle and their own addiction. And my sister, I showed my sister what you wrote about X, Y, or Z, and she said it gave her the strength to make it through one more day. And these beautiful things where people would say, "Hey, I'm a 3-time Trump voter, but I just want to say, keep on keeping on, brother. Like, I love you for your recovery. It gives me hope." And there's thousands of those messages. But what happens is that the one that catches your eye the one that says, shut up, you crackhead pedophile, you're criminal and you stole from, like, it's like, and it was a great lesson for me in the experience that everyone is having, not just on X, but across the board, in which we're all being, and it's purposeful. The thing that I never fully believed in, until I read this whistleblower, is how intentional.
Notice that he doesn't bring up the IRS whistleblowers that had a lot more internal documentation about his felonies and about the kid gloves that he got handled with from the FBI and DOJ, and always this meta whistleblower. Can't even talk about Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler.
And as long as we're looking at each other, as long as we're trying to find all of the things that are wrong with our life in the other, and by the way, whether it's the other that's the immigrant or whether it's the other that's our neighbor, we're not looking at ourselves.
We're at 75 for
and
those
we're not focused on the things that really matter. And one of the things that really matters is we better wake up to the way in which we're being led by the nose. And
again, we're off the laptop here, so I'm only with all the false statements so far and lies out of the 75. It's most of them are in the book, provably false. This is just spouting. This is talk while Hunter's smoking a cigarette. Meaning, some of these statements cannot be provably false. They're not provably true either. It's just Biden blabbering. How do you like that for an alliterative
to believe that we all hate
description?
Each other.
And it's making us worse. I mean, there's this, one of my favorite scenes in the Gospel of Luke is, that the parable the story that Jesus tells about the two men who go to pray at the temple, and one's the Pharisee and one's the tax collector, and the Pharisee looks over and says, God, thank you for not making me that guy, because he is a pig. He's a sinner, unlike, a righteous, good person like me. And the tax collector, who knows he's a sinner, because he's a thief, and he knows he's a thief, and everyone knows he's a thief, doesn't even look up. He can't even look at God, and he just says, have mercy on me. And Jesus says, who is justified before God? It's not the man who turns to the guy next to him and says, I'm better than you. It's the man who knows that he's not better than anybody. That's the man who's justified before God. And I just feel like all of life is that story. When you stop looking at other people and being like, you suck, and look inside and realize that I suck.
I'm not damning Hunter to hell. I'm correcting his lies. Right? Big difference.
That's
I don't have the power to damn anybody to hell.
Wisdom and peace come from.
Yeah.
Wisdom and peace. Wow.
There's a scene in the Gnostic Gospels, and I forget which is the Acts of Acts of Philip or something. Anyway, have you read the Gnostic Gospels? And really, you got to. They're the whole trove of Gospels. I mean, a lot of people would say that it's heresy, but it's the Emperor.
I love this faux historian shtick he's going to get on about Constantine here. Because he has a BA in history from Georgetown, folks. He's very sophisticated in his mind.
Constantine unified.
This is so Joe. Hunter is more like Joe than Bo was. I really believe that. I think Bo had the better qualities of Nelia.
Church and declared Catholicism, the Christianity, the
State religion of Rome.
State religion of Rome. They basically effectively chose 4 Gospels and banned all the other ones. And they found in Hominy, these 2,000-year-old texts, which were the other Gospels, written by Mary Magdalene and written by Philip and written by and anyway, there's part of one is it says Jesus is speaking to the disciples, and this is before, and he says, "Learn to suffer as I do," and that is everything. That all wisdom comes through suffering.
That is true. And
in that suffering, you're able to love. In that suffering, you're able to see the other. It's the exactly what that you were saying in Luke.
Yeah,
is being able to, like, not being the person casting judgment. Rather, and by the way, it doesn't mean that you are without discretion. It simply means is that as much as I'm not going to, what is the idea of, like, my empathy overwhelms my critical thinking.
Yes,
is not that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, however, is if I can feel this strongly about what they're doing to kids in detention centers in the United States of America, I can also feel just as strongly about, or have as much empathy for someone who feels like they have been completely left out and without any options, that are living in Bethel, Maine, that feels that this country has completely let them down and is looking for a hope, something, an object for their anger. And I want to bring them into the fold. I want to be able to talk to them. Those people that I think voted out of anger and that are still looking for, someone to be their retribution.
for people who are.
This is going to be the next 5 minutes, are, I think, if I can remember correctly, are going to be the only ones that are valuable. And this discussion should have only lasted about 5 minutes, because it's the only thing that Hunter is qualified to speak on, and he doesn't lie about.
People. Mm-hmm. I think you're absolutely right to say it's the scariest of all drugs, because it's the most insidious. It's just ubiquitous everywhere. How do you get off it exactly? You said you got off crack in 3 days or something like that. Pretty quick.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is
we've got to be
How do
fair.
you get off alcohol?
Yeah. Alcohol is the, and I mean this in this sense, and I have people push back on me, but alcohol is the most destructive drug that there is. Not just by virtue of the fact that it is as ubiquitous as it is. It is, and physiologically impacts your body. It impacts every organ, every major organ, and in particular, every major pleasure center of your brain. It's the only drug other than benzodiazepams that you can die from withdrawal from. So everybody always, does the Hollywood version of, how horrible it is to come off of opiates, or cocaine. And the reality is it's really painful and it's uncomfortable, and you think you are going to die, but particularly as it relates to cocaine, it's out of your system in 72 hours. There is no more physiological need for it, and you won't die from withdrawing from it. Alcohol, you'll die. You'll go into seizures, and it stays in your body not just for 3 days. It stays in your body for at least 30, if not more. And you've created these neurotransmitters in your brain that your brain is still crying. 30, 60, 90 days later, still crying for you to drink. And the worst part is, all you got to do is walk out your door, and usually it's not more than, particularly if you live in an urban environment, a quarter of a mile from wherever you.
And no one looks at you funny when you have a cocktail.
No, exactly, and it's encouraged. And so for me, it was hard work. Is that I've been to a number of rehabs, and in 2019, after I met Melissa, and she said this ends, is that I tapered. She had me taper.
How did she know to do that?
God, it was completely intuitive, and really, really, incredible. And she tapered me, and then at one point it got really bad, and I had to, true delirium tremens, and she called a doctor to come over.
What's that like?
Literally the feeling that if you don't remove yourself from your own body, that you're going to die, because you are. There's the real potential of you dying from seizures, and it's the most excruciating feeling that I've ever had of any kind of pain. And I'd gone through it before, but I had done it in a clinical environment in which they just usually use benzodiazepams to wean you that way.
Yeah.
And so I had weaned enough, but not enough to stop that. And so I had to go through it.
Where were you?
Melissa had rented a house, this little house for us in the up in the hills. I mean,
it wasn't a little house. It's a multi-million-dollar house on the Hollywood Hills that was paid for with loans from Kevin Morris.
Hard to get to from anywhere. Like, I couldn't walk. She took my keys. She took my wallet. She took my phone. She erased every number from it. She that didn't have the name Biden in it. She she had to do the hardest thing that for anyone that is that loves someone is, for a period of time, she had to be my jailer, and my nurse, and and literally nurse me back to life. And it is it's incredibly intense at the beginning, 24/7 that you have to be there, because you literally could, particularly with alcohol, not particularly, singularly with alcohol, you could die.
How long did it take you to feel better?
In that instance, 10 days before I could ever really eat anything and taste it.
Actually?
Yeah, never have any interest in not being forced to eat something. And then you start to, you have this kind of, everything is kind of grayscale, for even after you get a little bit of a boost around 30 days, and then you try to ride that as long as possible. But what happens in your brain is that somebody explained it to me this way: is that you have these little messengers that alcohol sends to your pleasure centers of your brain. And so the messengers, imagine them as little birds. In a normal person, the bird flies up to the birdhouse, and that's your dopamine or whatever it is. And like a normal, in a normal circumstance, like you have a happy experience, and sends two birds up, and to live in the birdhouse. And the maximum that you're supposed to ever have is like 10. It's like the happiest. What alcohol does is it sends 20 birds at a time. And so it creates 20 birdhouses. And then the next time you got to get to 30 birdhouses. And then it builds 40 birdhouses. Then you have, then there's 1,000 birdhouses. And when you take the alcohol away and you have a normal happy experience, like a cup of coffee in the morning, it only sends 2 birds. And your brain says, there are 998 other birdhouses that you have to feel for me to feel normal. And you don't have it. And there's nothing in a normal experience that can possibly produce that except the drug. And so your brain, the thing that you think that everyone, of course, has to believe is providing you with rational, logical information, is saying, if
this is about the only insightful thing that Hunter provides in the discussion.
You don't get this, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And in the case of alcohol, it means it.
Yeah.
So again, this discussion should have only lasted 5 to 10 minutes talking about this only. All the other bullshit was lies, misstatements. We didn't need it. The world didn't need it because false statements and lies are sinful.
If you don't get this, you're going to die. And by the way, not only are you going to die, you're going to feel like this for the rest of your life. So fix me. And so your brain's telling you. And so the first time that you face a trauma or an obstacle or something good happens, your brain says, I know how to make it better. I know how to fix it. I know how to make you not feel this way. I know how to make you not have this anxiety. I know how to make you not have this fear. We've done it before. Do it. And that is what alcohol at least did as it relates to me. But also I'm positive the science of it is, anyways, to me, the most dangerous thing.
I've lived it. And that's an amazing description and an accurate one, I think. How do you stay sober for 7 years?
Almost everything that I do is no longer with the idea that I am like living on a knife's edge. In the early days, though, you really do have to really protect yourself, not put yourself in positions of, people always say to me like, well, can I still go to the bar with my friends? Well, no. Getting clean and sober is really easy. All you have to do is change everything. Yeah. And that everything, and what I really mean by that is that don't go back and put yourself in the same exact circumstances that you were in, where your same group of friends, if they are heavy drinkers or your family. Like if you can't go to Thanksgiving without everybody getting drunk, maybe don't go to Thanksgiving this year if you're trying to get sober. And so that in terms of changing everything, but staying, I promise you, everybody, it gets not only easier, but there's this thing in the program that I practice in which they call the promises, in which you will know and experience an ease by which life happens as you are able to live life on life's terms, in which like everything,
it becomes easier because you have a fountain of money, and his name is Kevin Morris. Not everybody struggling with this has that.
Fix everything. Look at me. 6 felony charges and 2 trials later, and it shouldn't.
76th false statement. There were 9 felony charges, 3 misdemeanors. There were 9 charges in LA, 6 felonies and 3 misdemeanors, and then 3 felonies in Delaware. It's a false statement. I think you just got it wrong, but we have to count it. 76.
It didn't solve anything. It didn't solve all the consequences I had to face. But you know what? Can you imagine what my life would be like? I'd be dead. I'm 100% long dead. If I had decided the only way to be able to fix this is to anesthetize myself. I mean, I would be long dead. And that's what they were hoping.
False statement number 77. Nobody in his perceived enemies list has, to my knowledge, and I follow this scandal more closely than anybody on planet Earth, has ever verbalized a wish for him to die. It's a false statement.
I truly, truly do believe that. I believe that they knew that...
He could firmly believe that. Still false.
The singular, what they perceived as my father's Achilles heel, was his family. That regardless of what anybody says about Joe Biden, that there was nothing more important to him than his family. And that he had just lost Bo, and that the idea that I truly believe that they wanted me to relapse, which was equivalent to death. I'm positive they did.
Positive they did. 78. False statement. I'm now going on to a new page. We've hit 78. 15 minutes left.
What does that tell you about, one thing I noticed just living in Georgetown as a kid and knowing, a million people from political families is the families were all dealing with tragedies that on a bigger scale than normal people. Like there's something about that environment that is really hard on families, and you see it in the most famous political families. They're all
I don't know. See, that's one of the things that well, number one is I really truly didn't grow up in D.C.
Right.
And we really were in Delaware, and which is different. But to your point is that what I found is that I lived it publicly, but Tucker, what I found is that I was in a I forget where I was, and a stranger, somebody driving me, and he told me a story. He told me about their life and their addiction, and that their brother was in jail, and their father, just got arrested, and addicts. And I think everybody has those stories. Everybody,
that's for sure.
Except mine played out on the front page of the New York Post in a way that literally I don't think it had for anybody, any political family ever. I mean, even the Kennedys to the degree in which they, and I really mean that. Like, the total evisceration of anything, or even the notion that I deserved any privacy.
False statement number 80. You abandoned a laptop. Nobody was doing a peeping Tom taking those pictures of you. You took the pictures yourself, or with prostitutes who took pictures of you. False statement number 80.
I mean, I really, I look at...
No, sorry, 79. This next one will be 80.
Well, I say, just put yourself in my shoes for 1 minute. On what level? On what level is it do you think that was right? You know, I look like somebody like Miranda Devine, and just on what level if that was Ivanka, and I'm not talking about like, and just take her existing 20-year digital footprint.
80, there it is, number 80. He keeps saying 20-year. No evidence for any of that. Hit 80, guys.
Everything that she's ever done, it's like I guarantee you, and I don't know, I guarantee you, everybody has a nude. Everybody has a picture that they don't want to see. Everybody has a text message out of context. Everybody has a voicemail they wish that they hadn't left. Everybody has an email in which it doesn't have the entirety of the email chain. Like, you know how many conspiracy theories were born out of the fact that I wrote Buckley a recommendation to a school, which you reminded me he didn't get into. You know what I mean? Like,
I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Tucker's in our book, 3 different pages. This one is Georgetown University, page 502. Going to come a little bit later too. There he is. This is much worse than the Buckley Georgetown recommendation letter. This is Tucker getting mad at the Daily Mail for discovering that Hunter Biden was in the Ashley Madison leak. He said, "Just lost my shit on the editor over there." So he was covering for his friend, even though, by his own admission, Hunter's wife Kathleen Buell and his wife Susie Carlson were friends. So what about the infidelity, Hunter or Tucker? Didn't care about that. Didn't care about Kathleen Buell. Just cared about Hunter having to answer some uncomfortable questions for him about his many sins.
Like, out of context, you are able to do something. And how is that in any way fair? However, that's what happened. And
what'd your wife think? I mean, I just was thinking about like
she like talk about
she didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, like talk about like yeah. She is so tough. She's a she's a
5'2" pipsqueak South African who's a bullshitter.
She is a warrior. She's amazing.
Warrior? Never debated anybody about anything. All she did was scream at somebody in the hallway of a courtroom. So that's false statement number 81. No evidence that Melissa Cohen is objectively amazing in any way.
She is absolutely amazing. I mean, look. There's no way that I could even prepare for it. And this has been my life. None that I could prepare for it. The fact she didn't run says everything that you need to know about her. Because there wasn't much other upside. Well, the truth is that Bowie's the ultimate upside. So, but she is one amazing person.
What's your plan? You're on a path.
Yeah.
It seems like you kind of moved into it sideways, maybe not with a plan. I don't know.
No,
but you're clearly moving in some direction. Where is that headed?
I don't know. And that's one of the things, is that I don't, I know the things that I care about. I
No plan to pay Kevin Morris back either, apparently.
Care about
other than just waiting for his dad to die and selling some of the assets.
People that are still sick and suffering. I really do. Because, by the way, not because I'm a hero, not because I'm some saint and I want, you know why? Because it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life. It gives me sustenance. It makes me feel good about myself. I mean, it makes it easier for me to make it through the day. And so it's purely selfish. And that's one of the things about sobriety that I tell everybody is that the ultimate goal is to get to the end, and particularly as it relates to the program that I practice, is you get to the end of the steps. And the whole thing is so that you can be of service to somebody else. And not because you are sainted at the end and all of a sudden you're St. Francis walking among the forest. It's because it's the thing that saves you. The only way to truly get out of yourself is to do for somebody else. Is to sit here and for me, the easiest is to find other people that have had same and similar experience, and it's not like you have to look far.
No,
I mean, it's around every single corner there's somebody, and that's what's the beautiful discovery that I had. So there's that. I want to reach 1 million people in recovery, and I've created this thing at hunterbiden.com /recovery, in which anonymously, for nothing other than to create a storyboard. A StoryCorps is people get to share their experience, strength, and hope. Because what helped save me was realizing I wasn't alone, and I want to write about it. And I put it on Substack, and part of it's free, and part of it's subscription. And I want to continue to practice my art. And ultimately, at the end of the day, is that like anybody else, is that I want to have the financial security to be able to to not constantly feel as that I have to make choices that I don't want to have to make, like anybody else in their life.
How close are you to financial security?
I'm 1 million miles away.
That's true.
I'm several million miles away. I am, but yeah,
but he's just got Kevin Morris's money, so it doesn't matter if he is financially secure himself.
Winston Strawn wants their money.
Lawyers.
It's all legal bills.
Up, 82. It's not all legal bills. He owes his ex-wife, Kathleen Buell, tons of money. Tons of money. It's all sealed in the District of Columbia Superior Court, but we know it's in the millions. That's not a legal bill. You're not paying a lawyer that. You're paying the mother of his three of his girls that.
Yeah, and anyway,
Like tens of thousands of dollars.
oh no, millions of dollars, millions. I mean, just I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's between $4 and $6 million that Winston Strawn says that I owe them for my a couple of convictions. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah, a couple convictions and suing us. 83. False statement. It wasn't for just a couple of his convictions. It was the legal misadventures that Abby Lowell, former partner Winston Strawn, cooked up to interfere with a congressional investigation and a DOJ investigation by suing us, which he will answer for.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
How does that affect you?
I don't know. I would hope that they. How does it affect me? It affects me in this way: is that I have to find a sensible solution and a way through. I really am. I've wanted to avoid bankruptcy because the road back from that is just so long, and I'm 56 years old. But I don't allow it to consume me.
He doesn't allow it to consume him because Kevin Morris is helping pay his rent. He's living a fairy dust world life. He hasn't had to face any real consequences. Hunter facing a consequences would mean he's in a concrete box right now in the federal pen.
You know what I mean? I really don't, and I can't. It is. I don't want it to be the principal motivating factor for everything I do, because the truth of the matter is the mountain's it's such a long climb that I don't see the solution to it right now. But one will present itself. I think cooler heads will prevail, and I'll be able to. I just have faith. I don't know, man. I just have faith, and not blind faith.
That faith is in Kevin Morris. It's not in God. You know what he said about God earlier. Figment of the imagination of the collective frightened. By the way, here's a tweet that we saved about Tucker. Many years ago, I sent a reporter to knock on Hunter's door to ask him about something unrelated to his more recent troubles, and Tucker called to chew me out loudly for putting his friend on the spot without warning. They were quite close back then. Family barbecues together, etc. David Martosco.
Just work hard. I mean, shit, I'm really working my ass off.
84. He's not working his ass off. All he does doodles in his family's garage. And the garage and the house are paid for with Kevin Morris's loan money.
I mean, everybody says, "Oh, go get a job." I have 2 jobs. I have 2 jobs, and then on top of that, I have all of this that I'm trying to do. And then a whole thing that I'm trying to build is relates in that I'm working my butt off and doing that.
85. He keeps saying it. 85. Working my butt off.
They took away my law license.
They took away my law license. Not that Hunter's actions cause consequences. They took away my law license. They.
Means that avenue that I spent 25 years working towards to graduate from Yale Law School is not open to me right now. And so I have to, in many ways, reinvent myself, but not out of whole cloth. It's been the past 7 years, I'm really, really dedicated to my art. I'm really dedicated to the work of writing. You're a brilliant writer, and you know this better than anybody. It is a practice as much as an art. It's a discipline as much as
right.
And so I've been practicing that discipline since I wrote my first book. And
he didn't write his first book.
And
he had a ghostwriter, Drew Jubera, Drewjubera from Atlanta, Georgia, help him write his own memoir. This schmuck couldn't even write his own memoir. We're at 87.
And there's ways to be able to do that now. And ways to be able to do that can, that I think it's really important for me to be authentic about everything. There are also the ways in which I can do it, in which I hopefully can put food on the table.
Last question is about faith. How has this affected how you feel about God and changed your relationship?
I don't know whether I would say that it's changed, but it is deep in my in belief in whether you want to call it, I do, as God, is the absolute certainty of this. There is literally, in both the theological but also metaphysical sense, no distance between me and you or anyone.
I don't even know what that means. Christians would say we're all children of God and we're all created equally in the eyes of God, but that doesn't mean we're all equal in all attributes. But this is just some Eastern mysticism bullshit.
Really connected.
And this is a guy who went through 16 years of Catholic school, in quotation marks.
Connection that universal connection to everything is what I refer to as God. Is us realizing.
No, that's 88. That's what he refers to as God. No, we just heard what he referred to as God. It's the imagination, a fictional character from the imagination of the collective frightened. That's what he thinks of as God.
That all of our fear is a delusion, is being separated. It's all the idea. And so my faith is in the fact that I know that that there is not a that there's not a sentient being that is not that literally is me. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I truly believe that there has been a...
Imagine getting 16 years of Catholic education that some kids would do anything for, and that's his confession. It's pathetic. Sad as hell. Because if that's what he believes, he's going to hell. That's nothingness. That's Eastern Buddhism shit.
My life that has saved me time and time and time again. And that has taught me hard lessons. And that I believe that I cannot explain by other than what I choose to call God.
God.
No question about that. And we do get glimpses of the connection between people, all people. I think that's what we refer to as a transcendent moment, when we rise above all the things we're concerned with and sort of look down just for a split second. But this happens to people throughout life, and you're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
People are really connected to each other in a real way.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you start to get honest with yourself, really, really get honest with yourself. I'm not talking about everybody has to go through what I went through to be able to get honest with themselves. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But I think that there are spiritual practices that I did not either have the courage or the patience to endure. I'd say it's not like I was moving to Rishikesh to sit in a cave and meditate for 7 years. Instead, what I got is a trial by fire. And like I said, the complete eradication of an ego, not by courage or conviction on my part, but by necessary choice to survive. I had to choose to either stay in bed or get out and live. And if I was going to live, I had to let go of that.
Yes.
And I did. And for now, today, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It doesn't solve everything. It doesn't solve my debt. It doesn't solve my, I still got to, put on my pants like everybody else. And I still have, to deal with a relationship that, I like anybody else. And a family that I love, drives me crazy. I love, it's like everybody else. But I don't have to live a lie.
And we end with that 89th false statement. He is living a lie because you just heard him over the past 2 hours lie about everything relating to his laptop, what it contains, what it doesn't contain. And here's going to be the final glaze for Tucker.
Hunter Biden, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Here's the little twang that sounds a little bit like Yellowstone. So thanks for staying with us. We counted 89. That is the final number. 89 false statements and lies. We went through all of them when we had documentary evidence to prove that it was a lie. Put it up there. Check our work. Read the book. Get a physical copy. Follow our page. We're going to be making an announcement for a new project that's just as big and will take just as much work. The truth is all we're about. And the step now is for Tucker and Hunter to repent of their lies and false statements. We'll be waiting. Might be a while. Might be, not in this life when Christ calls us all to account. So, thanks for watching. Godspeed.